Welcome back, Red Spotters! I'm Alexis Soto, your host today with Peter Martinez on Red Spotlight Entertainment, the show that brings you all of the latest stories come out of the world of movies and more. And we got two big ones for you tonight. Of course, if you've been listening to our podcast, you've already have listened to last week's episode, which featured Alexis Moreno, Kyle Lira, and David Francisco talking about their feelings of the Batman. And we've got Peter back tonight, and we'll get his feelings of Matt Reeves' The Batman, currently playing in theaters. Actually, will be available for streaming on HBO Max on April the 19th, so that's coming up pretty soon. And we'll also be discussing the latest and greatest coming out of Disney and Pixar Animation Studios. This is Turning Red, as well as the accompanying controversy, because what would our shows be without addressing some sort of controversy of all things in the world of movies? There is so much crap happening in the world, literally, that is, people are dying, there's war, there's Nazis on the rise, and yet we still find controversial things in even the most useless and mundane of issues in the movie world. But hey, that's why we have a show. That's what we're talking about today on Red Spotlight number 379. Welcome back, Peter. Welcome back, Peter.
Oh, was I gone? I thought you were gone.
Nah, I mean, you were gone for 2 weeks. I know there was a little bit of a connection issue there. I was addressing the fact that you were missing for 2 weeks, not that the connection was paused momentarily.
Yeah, I've been a tad bit busy.
It seems that way, yes.
Be less busy now, but yeah.
I mean, I would hope so, because we're kind of ramping up. These next couple of weeks are pretty fucking big, and I'm not even talking about whatever films would be in theaters, because I'm not even in that headspace right now. We're trying to think about what's happening.
I don't even know what's coming.
I don't even know, and I don't even care, because right now we've got the Academy Awards happening not 2 weeks from now, and then even after that, those of us have been aware for months now of an impending deadline that is about our top 10 movies of the year 2021. Now, the deadline that was originally scheduled, I don't believe I divulged on air because I'm not that stupid to do that, because that's obviously not going to happen. So my best case scenario is by mid-April, we should have that out to give people just an extra bit of time. There's been some progress. I have communicated with Kyle, and he has informed me that he has been doing his homework and watching several films. I believe he mentioned that he saw movies like he saw Malignant, he saw The Green Knight, he saw The Last Duel, so he's been watching some. He didn't say what he felt about those films, but he just said that he's been watching them, so there's that. I guess we'll wait to see how he feels about them when we talk about this show. And you know what? I got to say, I'm actually pretty pumped up for this top 10 list, because for the first time, I think ever now, since we've been doing these shows since 2016, you, me, and Kyle, we're going to be switching up the format a little bit here. And the way that it's going to work...
much like the Academies, the producer stepped in, said the ratings were just cratering. And we need to change it up.
Although, in our case, I feel not only does it make far more logical sense, but I think the results will be far more successful. I mean, as far as the Academy Awards are concerned, they're going to have the worst ratings ever, and I can't wait to see it happen, because they deserve to suck, because they do suck. But in our case, I mean, personally, and this is where the idea of this came from, at least from me, and I approached Peter about maybe retooling our top 10 shows, because we've done, since 2000, we got 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20. We just did 20, hilariously enough, just a few months back. That's 5 shows now where we've done it exactly the same, where we have where each person on the panel, which is me and Peter and Kyle, gets basically an hour to themselves. And it's gotten so old for me where it's like the equivalent of reading off a shopping list. And it doesn't really create much of a conversation besides a couple of comments here and there. So what it's going to look like this year for the 2021, and it couldn't have happened to a better year, because I feel like this year, especially 2021, I mean, just full disclosure, I've never seen more movies than in this last year. And I think 2021, to quote Guillermo del Toro has been a fucking great year for movies. It really has been. We've been talking about that, I think, for months now. And the more movies, at least that I've consumed, the more that's only, I think, reaffirmed how much I believe in that. So the way it's going to look like this time is, usually we start off the show with honorable mentions, and then we get into the top 10 lists. This is how it's going to look like. So, all of us on the panel, Kyle, Peter, and myself, are going to go down each of our lists in tandem. And what that means is, let's say I'm the first one that's up, and I reveal what's on my number 10 film. Let's say it is, what's the movie I can use? Encanto. Let's say it's Encanto. I was thinking of that one. Let's say Encanto is a number 10. I reveal that. I discuss why it's on that list and why it's in that position, and we have a conversation about it. You know, maybe not. Some people may have it on their list as well, so they may choose to talk about that further down the road. But as soon as I'm done talking about my number 10, then Peter will reveal his number 10 film, which let's say it's Malignant, and then Kyle will talk about his number 10 film, which let's say it's Ghostbusters Afterlife. By the way, these are all kind of likely to happen. Who knows? I mean, these movies I'm tossing out there, who knows? But that's to get the gist right out there for those of you who are listening. That's how it's going to look like, is we're all going to basically hold hands and reveal our number 9s and 8s and 7s and 6 and all at the same time. And then when we reach the midway point, before we get to number 5 and all the way to number 1, we are then going to backtrack and reveal our honorable mentions. Obviously,
that's when we have our sponsor.
Yes, absolutely.
Our sponsors.
Yeah. So, and I think really, ultimately, that's in service to make it a far more interesting podcast to listen to, I would say, and hopefully create a much more back and forth than just having one person read off a list and then the other two having to basically mentally check out or tune out because the person's just going forever and ever and ever. And it's not just exclusive to Peter and his like extra long list of honorable mentions. It happens to all of us. You know, when one person is talking forever and ever and ever, the others are bound to just tune out. And so this will help to just avoid that as much as possible. So thankfully, of course, I don't make these decisions unilaterally by myself. Mr. Martinez has signed off on all of these changes. So thank you so much for agreeing.
Why were you
this.
Expecting pushback?
I expect interesting commentary out of you, and usually I do not expect unilateral agreement.
Just be right, and I'll agree with you.
Okay. Well, maybe in this case it seems that I was. So that's our top 10 coming up. Peter, how is progress?
It's happening.
It's happening. Did you get in there?
Movies have been watched.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them, but many a film.
Many a film. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm practically done. I feel like as far as like, I still have a list of 20 movies I could watch, but realistically speaking, there's only 2 that I feel like are really worthwhile in catching that I'm actually excited to see. The 2 films were Worst Person in the World, the international film, and then also the other one was Inside, Bo Burnham on Netflix, which is a film that you've already seen. And one that I've been purposefully delaying as much as possible. But you know what? I also hear it's enjoyable, so I guess we'll see about that. And I definitely want to see it. So those are the 2 left, at least for me. But at this point, I think I have a pretty good idea of the 10 movies. I'm not going to say it's a lock because things honestly are changing every single day. And these last 2 weeks, I have to say, I've surprised myself with what I have like put on that list. And I have to say, I think when we actually do sit down, there are going to be some big surprises. Some movies I myself never thought I would put in a top 10 list or would call movies that I absolutely love and adore. So I'm excited to see the reaction. That's for sure. Like, I'll tell you this.
Sing 2?
I'll give you Sing. Sing 2. Well, we'll see, right? give you a good example of how things have changed. Like in the last couple of when we went to go see the Batman, we talked about Encanto and how how that film is how we've absorbed that film and how just trying to analyze all the different little things. In our conversation, I think you've actually helped me really my estimation of the film every day actually continues to rise. Hilariously enough, I think it actually got bumped down a couple of spots. And that has nothing to do with Encanto at all. It has to do with other movies that I've seen. So that's something that's out there. But yeah, I can't wait to see the reactions. I don't know if it's an Invader Zim level kind of like shock that you had a few years back.
I don't even think that's shocking. Who doesn't
I thought
love
it was shocking
Invaders?
because well, for me, it was shocking because I didn't even know that movie existed. Like, I knew the show was a thing, but I didn't even know they had a movie that they came back out with. So that's why I was just kind of like stunned. They're like, oh, that was out of left field. So
Movies are great.
Yeah. No, and you know what? I don't think I've really appreciated movies more than I have every day of my life, honestly. Like, every day of my life, I'm just grateful to have these things that I can have some kind of enjoyment out of because the world isn't a great place to be. And a lot of the news is just downright depressing. And so never have I needed really escapist devices as films and stories. And I think that 2021 provided some of the best I've ever seen. And some of the most that I've ever been passionate about. It really has been a special year to the point where it's like, it's right up there already for me with 2019 and 2014 as my favorite years in movies. It may even get better than that.
If you need escape, may I interest you in the metaverse?
I think I've heard. Wait a minute, isn't that Zuckerberg thing?
Yeah.
Oh, he can go fuck himself. I don't give a fuck about Zuckerberg. No, hell no.
You can buy virtual land and sell NFTs in the metaverse.
No, that ain't me.
Oh.
But there are a list of things that I have been like escaping to, and I will get into that later on in the show. But there's that, and so I'm hoping you guys are like close to getting a top 10 list confirmed. I really do want to make this thing happen as soon as possible because I think it really is the best opportunity for us to do this show after the Academy Awards have aired. So, speaking of that, about the Academy Awards, and I can't think for a second it's just me saying this, but I feel like any kind of legitimate excitement and or enthusiasm about this year's show and or potential winners has just been completely like the air has been let out of the balloon. Because I honestly can't think of anything that's exciting. There are great movies nominated. There are some great movies that are going to win. But as far as I think it's a two-pronged issue for me. The pressing one, well, not the pressing one. Well, it is a pressing concern from an entertainment standpoint. It just seems like it's going to be a complete train wreck, even worse than last year. It may not be entirely boring, but it may be more cringe, and that may be even worse. Because we know what's going to happen with the whole like Twitter poll going to be announced on air. We know that 8 categories were slashed from the live broadcast, and we also know, least of which Amy Schumer will be on that stage as well. And we've already been given a preview of like what material she came up with, and it just looks absolutely horrendous, cheap, lazy, and just awful. And so as far as a production standpoint, I'm not expecting a good show. I'm expecting a disaster. And I don't know if I'm alone in that.
Yeah. I as far as like the entertainment value, I can't imagine how it can be worse than last year's.
Because last year was just boring.
It was
Except
so
the ending.
the ending was like, I guess you could say the ending was memorable. But this year, again, I might cringe more.
Yeah.
But I will be less bored.
Yeah.
And I guess that's
a win?
Better. I don't know. For me, the way it should be, the thing that's always most engaging about the Academy Awards is like, what's the race? The movies.
And that's the other issue I was going to mention. Go ahead.
The race this year sucks.
It completely sucks.
It's very boring. It's the power of the dog and like
Coda,
where it's like,
don't those names, by the way, just sound so vanilla?
They sound like an Academy nominated films for sure. They have those kinds of titles. Yeah, and like they're just those kinds of films, man, where it's just like I have no passion for either film.
No, none whatsoever.
In any way. So it's like I don't care.
That's a big thing.
Even of West Side Story, which I very much enjoyed the film, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was the craft, but I also, of course, have issues where it's just like the kind of film that it is. If West Side Story was in the race, that would be exciting to me.
That would be something. Because it's very unlikely, next to impossible, that's going to happen. But if it did, that would be the first time a remake. Think about this: a remake to a past Best Picture winner would win Best Picture.
Is that true?
It has to be true. Like, West Side Story is the most decorated, well, as far as musicals are concerned, West Side Story is the most decorated musical in Academy history. It won 10 Oscars. 1961, I mean. That's the original 10 Oscars. West Side Story, I think if it's lucky, it'll walk away, this new version, if it's lucky, it'll walk away with 2 Oscars.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. At least that would be exciting. Because it would be kind of unexpected and shocking, and then also just like a really interesting like development if that were the case. The problem with that is there's just seemingly no passion. Just to analyze the race real quickly, objectively, the way things have really landed right now, as far as the industry, and the industry are the people and the crafts and the actors and the directors and the executives. They're all put in this pot and they're really evaluating, the landscape. And we've already analyzed to death about like how, political and the popularity contest these things are. Like, really, 9 times out of 10, the best thing nominated doesn't win, doesn't come close to it. But you got to analyze where things are at the ground, and miraculously, even though it only got 3 nominations, Apple TV's Coda, of all movies, seemingly is surging right now. And it hasn't necessarily won anything major aside from, Best Ensemble at Screen Actors Guild, Best Film at the Hollywood Critics Association and the Critics' Choice Awards. I believe that's correct, unless maybe not Critics' Choice Awards, but one of the other ones. The thing with Coda that makes me think that it could win is that there's a lot of passion behind it, particularly from the people that are voting. And this is not a group of people who are above simply voting for something because it made them cry or because it was heartwarming. How else do you explain Green Book? And so that recently happened, not just like that was not 3 years ago. So
Best Picture winner of 1991
in 2018 or 19, whichever one it was. So it's very possible that it could happen. And then if that does happen, man, that's just really depressing. Power of the Dog, also, again, it elicits no passion or excitement from me because we've already litigated all these things. So, like, what are we left with like, no real dog in the race, like, with Best Picture? And you know what makes it even more, like, insulting to me? Like, you know, the films that are probably right behind Coda and Power of the Dog are also the same kind of milquetoast movies like Belfast or King Richard. Belfast, yes. King Richard, Coda, and Power of the Dog, and I'm like, you've got Licorice Pizza, you've got Nightmare Alley, you've got West Side Story, you've got Dune, you got Drive My Car. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me?
They're so obsessed with a very specific type of bullshit Academy Award-like film. It's so annoying.
It's really, and it's also more annoying the fact that a lot of the press, a lot of the awards pundits themselves are so infatuated with these films. And by the way, I see a lot of these people's podcasts and shows. They can be very critical and very bitchy when they want to be. But God help them. Like, they don't seem to... Their love for something really gets in the way sometimes of their analysis, as does all of us, I would say, to an extent. But there needs to be more attention paid to the fact that the Academy just, like, picks the same movie all the time. The exact same movie.
There's a reason Oscar bait as a phrase exists. Because everyone knows there's a specific type of movie or performance that plays well with the Academy.
Now, to be fair, thankfully, I would say, in spite of the Academy's worst tendencies, lately there have been some pretty good fucking winners that are not necessarily your typical Oscar bait movie, like Moonlight, Parasite, Spotlight does fit, but I mean, or Nomadland. Those movies definitely would not be looked at. I mean, Parasite was the first international movie to win Best Picture at the Academy Awards. So things have been kind of changing, but still, when you look at the nominees, look at the nominees. Half of the nominees are those kind of movies that, with all due respect, have no business being there. And I say that as somebody who liked Coda, who liked King Richard, who liked Power of the Dog. Well, Power of the Dog may be more so, because it was a better directed movie, but still, it's not anywhere near, I would think, the great movie a lot of people are making it out to be. I think it's good, but I don't think it's Best Picture worthy. And I think you have plenty of options with Dune, Drive My Car, Nightmare Alley, West Side Story, Licorice Pizza. Those are far more exciting choices to me. But that's just me, right? So again, it just... Yeah. We'll see how it all pans out, but realistically, I don't know how much we care here. So that's the Academy Awards. Let's go ahead and move on to some Marvel stuff. Oh, we love Marvel. We love the MCU, except the things that aren't in the MCU. But before we get to that fucking rant, let's start off with... What's her name? Miss Marvel. There was a trailer that came out.
Yes.
With Miss Marvel. By the way, Moon Knight will be debuting at the end of the month. I've heard some interesting stuff about some of the early reactions. From what I heard, the first couple of episodes of Moon Knight, Moon Knight, the TV show, the Marvel thing, will have no references to the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. No cameos.
Good.
Thank fucking God. That doesn't necessarily mean it'll be good, but thank you. Thank you for the restraint.
Don't need them.
This is a character you like, Moon Knight. You seem to be pumped up for it.
As pumped as I can be with Marvel right now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, I'm not really pumped for anything Marvel right now. Listeners of this podcast will know Peter and I have not been crazy about Marvel lately. That isn't to say everything's been negative. For the most part, we still come out positive on most of their projects. But I think our dissatisfaction lately has a lot to do with the fact that there is great, phenomenal stuff in, from Warner Brothers and DC with the Suicide Squad and Batman, and Marvel, well, take your pick. Most of the stuff isn't anywhere near it, and even the great stuff, well, again, it's up to your personal preference, but it doesn't all come together neatly the way that those other films that are very much director-driven, and even Peacemaker. That's the thing. It's like, after Peacemaker, I kind of don't care. I gotta be honest, as much about the MCU Disney Plus shows. I feel like Peacemaker ruined it for me.
It's such a better show. And and you know what made it worse? Because I was thinking, because like, okay, we saw those Marvel shows, and well, they started off real hot and interesting, especially with WandaVision. It's just like, okay, this is Marvel. Like by the time we got to Hawkeye,
the end,
it was just like, man, like some of these could just be movies, and even and maybe they would be better as movies, and even then, I don't know how much that much better. Again, it's the same thing, not inoffensive, not terrible, just like fine, whatever.
And doesn't that fucking suck? Because it seemed like, especially with when we got done with the first two, or even the first three, when it came to WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, and Loki, it seemed so exciting. It seemed like Marvel finally cracked something that was like electric, that maybe TV was their medium, that they were going to dominate it. But then the ending of Loki happened, and then we got Hawkeye, and then when you take a step back, you take a breath, and you kind of like reevaluate all of those different shows, and you think to yourself, well, yeah, these are just movies. Like, they're 6-episode miniseries, but they feel like movies. They don't feel like shows, and because of that, I've just like, because I was just watching a review by Grace Randolph, like a very, not even a review, but like a preview of it, and she said that there were, again, like 6 episodes, and I'm like, and then she mentioned that she saw the first 4 episodes. By the end of the 4th episode, it doesn't even feel like how there would only be 2 episodes left to conclude everything. That's the problem for me. It's like, make fucking TV shows. Use your actual shows and use the medium of television like Peacemaker did. You don't need 12, 13 episodes. You can use 7. You can do it in 6 episodes, but I would prefer 7 or 8. I would much prefer 7 or 8, because it seems like by the time we get to your finales of all of these shows, something happens where it's like, it ends, and I'm like, well,
it ended.
It was nice.
Well,
that was nice. It was Marvel, but
the issue is, I feel like they sort of run in place for like 3 episodes. And they don't have to. This is like something with Hawkeye. It doesn't have to be. That could have been a 2-hour movie, not even 2.5. 2-hour movie. So much stuff in there was just, I don't know, just running in circles, just creating, like that's kind of my worry with like Moon Knight, where it's the same thing, where it's just like, I'm enjoying it, but like this doesn't need. This could have been a 2-hour movie. Like, this could have been this could have been that. For me, what ruins it is you see the Marvel shows, and then you see Peacemaker, which is fucking great. And then, as we will not discuss later, the Netflix shows go over to Disney Plus. And I'm reminded at how good that stuff was, especially the Daredevil. Like, I'm reminded how good that stuff is.
Similarly, though, I would counter though those, and we all agree on what the problems those Netflix shows had. But the hilarious thing is, at least what keeps them in common is, with some of those shows, their seasons ran way too long, and you had a couple of episodes where they were just meandering. The thing is, those stories were made for a TV medium, and the MCU Disney Plus shows feel like movies that are just like chopped up into 6 parts. Yeah,
like they, even then with the MCU shows, it felt like there's like characters and like developing stuff.
The Netflix or Netflix, you got to be clear. Then okay,
the Netflix. Yeah. Like there's stuff going on. Like there's a whole episode where it's basically just Daredevil and like Punisher arguing.
I love that episode.
And it's like, sure, not a lot happens, right? But it's fucking great. Like it's like, you need that shit. You need that episode. you don't have that kind of shit with the Marvel. It's just more of with the Disney Plus Marvel. It's just kind of like we're kind of running in place because we have a 6-episode order, but we had a 2-hour script. So, but like going back to what I was saying, the Marvel shows, and then you get to Peacemaker, you get to the Netflix stuff, and I'm just kind of like, now I'm not feeling, I don't know how to feel about like going back to the Disney Plus shows. And then on top of that, we recently saw a film called The Batman. And I'm like, that's a fucking caped crusader, right? Yeah. That's a fucking crazy motherfucker who wears a cape and beats up people at night. So then it's not fair. They're not the same character. But I know watching Moon Knight, at the back of my head, I'm like, I saw the quality of the Batman, and I know the quality of the Moon Knight character and where it could be, but
it won't be. It won't be, and we'll touch on that won't be reasons why it won't be in a little bit. Hilariously enough, it just occurred to me. You're talking about the fact that because you'll have the DC, the Batman movie in your mind, that you can't help but compare when you're watching the Cape Crusader, the show, the Moon Knight on Disney Plus with Disney. This is all happening in March, by the way, around the same time. It's kind of the reverse of what happened when DC and Marvel released 2 Versus films in 2016 with Batman v Superman and Captain America Civil War, but the reverse.
Yeah, that's true.
So, payback's a bitch?
I mean, what's their name? Still gonna make all the money, Disney.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm trying to temper down expectations.
Well, it's like, look, it's Moon Knight. Realistically, as you mentioned when it was first announced, and I'm going off on what you said, not that I personally know so much about this character, but the best version of this would be an rated R version. And that's something that Disney will not allow Marvel Studios to do. And I'm not even sure myself if Marvel Studios even wants to go down this route, quite frankly. Because what has been revealed in the last week is that Marvel Studios and Disney have been gaslighting us for years. We suspected it was that case, but they've been gaslighting us for years regarding whether or not Deadpool 3, which is going to happen. They got the director, Sean Levy, who directed The Adam Project on Netflix with Ryan Reynolds and then also Free Guy last year, is going to be directing Deadpool 3. Sean Levy doesn't do R-rated. He's never done R-rated. Disney was like, oh, you know what? These guys work together. Just make Deadpool 3. To me, this is confirmation. That was all bullshit. Deadpool 3 will be PG-13.
Yeah.
They're not saying it now, but it will be PG-13. The same way, at this moment, with reports that we've already known that Daredevil, quote unquote, season 4, whatever that looks like, or another Daredevil show with Charlie Cox is going to happen on Disney Plus. We knew about that long before it was even announced that those shows would be brought over to Disney Plus, which there are right now. Even though Disney Plus now has the ability to have TVMA content on there, they updated their settings for these new shows. You had to make a pin or whatever if you wanted to see these shows available on Disney Plus. Even though now that show, the old Daredevil series, the TVMA rated series, is going to be sitting on Disney Plus, they're going to move forward with a quote unquote, either a continuation or a complete reboot, or most likely a nod and a wink. Not really. We're different, but yes, figure it out yourselves. We're going to continue on with the same actors, but even though we have the show there and all of those images and people can see them, we're not going to do TVMA for this new version of Daredevil.
They're not.
When you put those two together, it's like, it really just, at least for me, ruins any and all excitement and or enthusiasm for either of these. As somebody who, by the way, I don't say it a lot because I get angry at the fans, but I do and always have loved the Daredevil show. I didn't watch season 3 because it came out at the worst possible moment where I was not interested in it. Defenders, I honestly left a sour taste in my mouth. So there was that. By the way, in case anybody forgot, I fucking adore Deadpool 2.
Yeah, you did.
I put
You
it in
said
my
was
top
your
10
favorite.
of that year. I love Deadpool 2. And so the idea, and let's not like mince words here. Part of the quality of those overall projects, Daredevil and Deadpool, was the fact that it was able to go in an area where so many of the other comic book stuff, in particular Marvel, never even tries to go into. And so to hear that both of these two properties are going to continue on, technically speaking, but not be allowed to go anywhere near to where they once were, is just so demoralizing to me.
Yeah, because to me, and I guess what hurts is we've seen how good it can be, right? Like, we've seen peak Daredevil when it's allowed to be. We've seen peak Deadpool when it's allowed to be. So now when they pull back and they're like, here are these Disney verified versions of these same characters, it's gonna be like, there's a version in my head of Deadpool 3 that I can imagine hating, where it's mostly just like, we're part of Disney now, here's a lightsaber, here are jokes about a Disney character. Like, I can imagine some shit that just makes me groan and go like, and the same with Daredevil. It's like, you can do dark stuff and not be rated R. I know, I just saw the Batman. But is Disney willing? I mean, if there was ever a chance for them to flex that and show that, it would be with Moon Knight. So I guess we'll see.
They won't even do it with Deadpool. And they have other avenues to do it so. First of all, I mean, yes, Marvel Studios would be producing it, but just because Marvel Studios produced it, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the MCU, goddammit. Some people will not, let me live that down, because they won't. But it doesn't have to be. But even then, you don't have to release it under that banner. You have the 20th Century Studios banner, where it can be R-rated. It doesn't need to be held back.
Yeah.
So and then that's the Deadpool stuff. And then Daredevil, that is honestly kind of worse because you're going to have a new Daredevil. First of all, I don't think whatever this new Daredevil project is going to be is season 4. I think it's basically a reboot, as in a soft reboot. It's not going to be called season 4. Let's just say it's a sequel series, but not kind of, but not really. To where the
Daredevil, the Man Without Fear. They'll add some
something like that. It'll look like that. It'll sound like that, but I fear that it's not gonna bear much of a resemblance to what it was, and it's made even at least before you would have the separation where the old Daredevil series was on Netflix. But now that it's not on Netflix, it's literally sitting there on Disney Plus. You're going to have both of these Daredevil shows sitting next to each other on Disney Plus. Are you kidding me? You've already gone to this length to introduce TVMA content on Disney Plus in this country. What the fuck is holding you back? Oh,
money.
I guess you don't want to spend money in it. Wasn't there an ongoing joke that it didn't cost, that those shows were always so cheap in the first place? Like, Daredevil didn't seem to be that expensive. The cheapness of Daredevil wasn't a problem. Where it became a problem was the other shows, the Defenders especially. But with Daredevil, that wasn't so much of an issue. It didn't seem like it cost that much money to make.
Disney does not make art. Disney makes money.
There you go.
Should they make art along the way,
yes,
that'll be nice. But the goal is never to make art. The goal is to make money. And a PG-13 kid-friendly version of every single character they can conceive of is gonna make the most money. Because you can slap that character on kids' clothing, you can slap it on a lunchbox, you can do all kinds of shit, you know?
Which is why it's happening with Deadpool.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
And as far as Daredevil, I mean, I feel like they've already, like, Charlie Cox, who's been giving a lot of interviews lately, has already been indicating that's the direction they're going to go in. Because he even said that, I think a PG-13 Daredevil would work. Of course, he's going to say anything because he wants his job back.
Yes.
That's what it is. And also with Daredevil, this is where let me this is where I go insane, because when I look at a lot of the comments made by, let's just say, Marvel stans of all nature, a lot of the conversation is just endlessly obsessed with canon. And it's just hypocritical. Well, it is in nature, but I mean, I guess from my standpoint, it is hilarious to see so many of these people bend over backwards and insist that the Netflix Daredevil series 100% fits into their beloved Marvel Cinematic Universe canon. All the while, of course, denying entry to some other show we'll get to in a bit. But as far as Daredevil is concerned, we don't have to, but we will. Over my dead body, we will. As far as Daredevil is concerned, I felt this way, and everything that I've seen has not swayed me in the other direction, and that is, it seems like they're just going to go with the idea that Kevin Feige just liked Charlie Cox and the cast of these shows, and he's going to bring them back. But as far as I'm concerned, they ain't the same show. They will feel the same-ish. There will be similarities. There will be things carried over here and there, and you can squint back and look at that old series to see, okay, if you want to make that connection happen, it's there. But for these people who are so fucking insistent about what is and what isn't reality or relevant, you ain't gonna have it both ways. You're just not.
I think everyone has said soft reboot.
Yes, but that means as in, like, they're not ever going to address the events that happened in the first three seasons.
Maybe not directly. But again,
they may hint at it. They may give a nod and a wink.
Yes.
I'm saying, why? There's no need for that. There's really no need for that.
Because they want...
What is the point of all of this?
Because they want you to think they're part of the same story. That's the point. Of course it's the point.
Except they're not.
They can retroactively be made to be.
You're right. At any point, that can happen. So the question therein lies, why hasn't that happened?
Well, first of all that's happened so far is a 2-second cameo from Charlie Cox. So, well, I guess, and Kingpin was in, what do you call it? Hawkeye. I guess my question to you is, what's the threshold? At what point can you go, okay, they've officially made those shows canon? What could be done? What could be said?
Okay. I'm going to sidestep that, and I'll tell you why.
Coward.
No, but I'm going to explain to you why. As I've said many, many times, for me, I can thread the line. And as far as the new iteration of Daredevil, if they do the soft reboot and a nod and a wink, it's enough for me. My problem stems from the canon Nazis, as I call them, and there's stringent rules, and how their favoritism allows one show in the club and one show consistently out. That's the problem where it is. Putting that to the side. for me, as a fan of the old series, it's annoying that they have to be so like, hey, remember this, but not really be so vague about it. As a fan of those seasons and those episodes, that we will start off a new series with a new costume, with so many indications of like, oh, here's something new, here's something else. It's like, what was wrong with the old stuff? It just comes off really condescending to me and annoying and overall just frustrating with these people.
But again, what's the threshold? Okay,
I said for me, well, look, we'll see what it looks like, right?
I agree. We have seen
but
nothing.
I'm telling you right now, and I've said this for so many times, I'm somebody that if I want to see the line for canon, quote unquote, I will take it, and it's fine for me. Again, my frustration is with another matter, with the people who, well, I've already gone off on this several different times. It's just annoying to me. It's like, all right, well, let's make all of these different choices and everything. And like, yeah, but we'll make this better. And that also comes off as like, it's really off-putting to me because like, I already know. And that ultimately is my biggest issue. We already said this. Whatever they do won't be better than what already happened.
Yeah,
with
of course. But to me, that's not an issue with canon. That's just an issue with.
No, it's not an issue with canon, but it is my issue with this overall show and with the overall approach
for me,
of
like
Marvel.
as far as canon is concerned, I guess you know the way I feel.
Well, it's like do you care about canon? Because I don't really. At the end of the day, like for me, canon is so irrelevant to me. Completely so when it comes next to quality of stories. I have gone on so many tangents about canon, primarily, if not exclusively, because so many people conflate canonicity with quality, with relevance. And that's really annoying and condescending. Somebody who is a fan of a show that was on the air for 7 years, that no one really has bothered to watch, that doesn't live in Brazil or in the UK or in South America, here in the United States, how every single time, again, it goes back to this damned Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing. Like, you would think the fact that now that it's on Disney Plus, you would think now things would start to be changing a little bit here and there, but it's like, it's just... Many people I have seen, and you have agreed to this idea out there, that they will not bother, quote unquote, wasting their time with something unless it is deemed to be, quote unquote, legitimate and official. And that's my issue with this whole canon thing. The only reason why I want this thing to be canon is to, well, first of all, it'll be my excuse to say, well, get fucked to all of you. Now you have to watch it.
Thankfully, there's no danger of it becoming canon. So.
Yeah, right? No, and you know what? I think the sad thing is, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. And I feel like this year, I mean, I don't personally find it funny. It's actually kind of sad. Because I think this year, when all the projects are said and done, I think it's going to be quite clear at this point what it's going to look like. And that's just deeply depressing. Because by the time this year is over, everybody's going to get their chance to be in the club. There are people now literally retroactively going back because of this multiverse thing. The Raimi films, the X-Men films. Of course, they get to be MCU canon, right? Of course, they get to be included in all of this. But when it's all said and done, it seems the only fucking thing that will never, ever, ever, ever be allowed in is, of course, those damned Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ever.
And if rumors are correct, even that those Fantastic Four films that everyone hated will be canon.
Not even that. You know what's even worse than that? And I saw this, and this is hilarious. And I asked this rumor of you a few weeks back, and you kind of dismissed it. But it's still there in the ether. And I feel like Grace Randolph, of all people, and we know she knows who's going to be in that movie, hinted at this. When she said about Maybe they're not so done with Inhumans. Anson Mount from that garbage Inhumans TV show. If he gets a fucking cameo in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I am going to fucking kill people. I am going to go on a murder spree.
Very
You're
relevant to
me
the film.
Inhumans, fucking the Inhumans TV show, gets something before Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. At that point, how can you not take that personally?
I would love it.
How am I not supposed to take that personally?
Because
really? Of all things?
Because you didn't make the show.
Does that imply that people who did make the show should take it personally? Because I think they have.
Oh, they absolutely
I think Chloe Bennett
have.
has taken personally for all these years.
Yeah, she has. That's very funny.
So it's just like, hey, what the fuck is up? Like, you can't make this shit up. Anson Mount, from a failed disaster of a TV show, gets reeled in to have a cameo, probably part of the Illuminati, in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Like, it's just like, I'm sorry. I don't know why I feel bad sometimes, like, sounding the way that I come off, but it's just so fucking annoying and aggravating. Insulting, demeaning. It's like, what the fuck do I have to do? Literally, what the fuck?
You did not make the show.
I don't understand the relevance of that.
Because you said, what do I have to do? You have to do nothing.
What do I have to do to catch a break with this show? I don't have to do anything. But, like, what is it going to take? Maybe is a better question.
Maybe people just don't like the show.
That is habitually false. You like the show. Kyle likes the show. Mm-hmm. Look at the analytics. The show is very popular all over the world. What you just said is a damned mistruth. Maybe in the United States it wasn't popular, but everywhere else it was. And we have the data to back that up. And that's also part of the misinformation out there of this series.
I've been trying to put together who you remind me of, and I think I figured it out. You are a Snyder cultist.
So about this Miss Marvel trailer. What did you think?
Did you watch it?
Yeah.
It's a great song.
Isn't it?
Ooh, I'm blinded by the light. I would not have expected that song usage for a trailer. I think it works really well.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
The floor is yours.
Oh, it's for me.
Yeah, it was made pretty clear.
Moi.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't respond to being called a terrorist or a cultist, so I guess the floor is yours.
Yes, you can.
No, I can't. Like, at that point, it's like, okay, it's a moot point.
Your response should be like, wow, that's a great point. I have now reevaluated, and am here to thank you for such brilliant insight.
Well, that's not my response. In fact, I'm actually quite hurt by that comment, but continue with what you were saying.
What's very funny, because I mentioned earlier about seeing one type of thing, and then the Marvel version coming out and being like, the Marvel version, I don't know about the Marvel version in comparison to this other thing. And one film that I had seen this past week is a film called I was gonna say Inside Out, Turning Red, and I feel like there were a number of similarities between Turning Red and this film, or not this film, this show, Miss Marvel. And again, it's that thing of like, just a sneaking suspicion that Turning Red kind of did everything that Miss Marvel is gonna do, except better. And I love Miss Marvel. I love the character. The comics are great. They ended up doing a big change with her powers that a lot of people are kind of have issues with. But beyond that, like, I think the lead actress is great. I like that there's some level of like, this looks interesting as far as like the camera movements are trying to be somewhat stylistic. But again, like, the level of style comparatively to Turning Red, it's just a lot higher in Turning Red. So I don't know. I think it was a well done trailer. I'm really hoping for the best because I really like Miss Marvel as a character, and but I'm unsure, very unsure.
What about the power change? Did you like how that looked?
No.
So also, what are her original powers?
She has the powers to, like, they're called embiggen, or she calls it that. She can just sort of like shift her body. So she can make her hands huge. She can make her legs super long. It somewhat on the page looks similar to Mr. Fantastic, with like stretchy, get big, small powers.
I hear many speculated that was part of what motivated the change.
I would assume so as well.
I don't believe it, but well, maybe that's part of it, but I don't believe that's what happened.
Really? Okay. I guess for me, like, one of the big, to me, and again, this is why I was like, oh my god, it's so much like Turning Red, because the powers, they kind of were off-putting visually, because she would morph her body in big and small ways, and people would comment like, it's kind of gross. I think even Wolverine was like, I've seen some weird shit, but your power freaks me out. And it was this thing of like learning self-acceptance, right? As far as like, her power does look goofy and weird, but it's about accepting herself in that sort of way. Like, when the first night that she turns into Miss Marvel, she literally physically changes her appearance to become a white blonde woman. Because because that's what with her power, she can morph, and she looks like a young white blonde woman because of her sort of fan love of Miss Marvel, and the idea of like, that's who heroes are. They look like her, they don't look like me, right? And that sort of takes her on that journey of self-acceptance. So at least for me, I feel like the powers are pretty vital to that sort of journey. And if it seems like they're just sort of giving her, like, everyone calls it like Green Lantern power. And Green Lantern is just like, anything he wants to construct with his mind, he can do it with the power of the ring. So if he wants to construct a sword, he'll construct a green sword and then he'll use it to fight. If he wants to construct a shield or a wall of shield, he'll do it with, and that's what it seems like it is. So it's like her hands, her embiggen powers are just constructing energy versions with her hands, because you saw, like, she was blocking gunfire by creating a wall, an energy wall, and another one she's walking through the sky again by stepping. So it's very different, and I think some people are like, well, it makes sense because Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel has energy-based powers, and now Miss Marvel will have energy-based powers, and it's kind of, I don't know, makes more sense. But I don't care, because I like Miss Marvel. I've never given that much of a shit about Captain Marvel. So yeah, to me, it's a bigger deal than I think is what some may think see on the surface if they don't know anything about the character.
Anything else?
Does it come out this year?
June.
Okay. I just wanted to see.
I've got at least 3 major issues. The trailer was good. The first of which of my problems happened to be, well, it's Marvel. And quite frankly, looking at Moon Knight and Miss Marvel and She-Hulk and Secret Invasion, I don't give a rat's ass. I'm sorry. I don't give a rat's ass. Like, I feel no excitement, and I'm off-put, quite frankly, by a lot of things Marvel these days. Generally, I'm not that whelmed by any of it on paper. And then you add in the other elements with fans in particular and the things that they, the things that they like and the things that I like end up like pushed away. It's off-putting. But generally speaking, you are right about that. It's like, well, it's going to be the Marvel version of this and it's not going to be the best version it could be. So there's that brings it down. The other aspect of this happens to be, this is a character whose core foundation happens to be that she's a big fan of Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers.
And who would be a fan of her?
That's the thing. Like, I'm talking about the cinematic universe here. Carol Danvers had one film that completely failed to set her up as a character. They completely failed to go into her power set, like, and how that, like, or her identity, and no one likes her. Like, she's just no one's favorite anything in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so we're going to go to Miss Marvel, who it's like, and I kind of feel like on some level, it's like, why does she like Carol Danvers? We haven't even seen what she is to this, like, universe. All of a sudden, she's a celebrity. Oh, okay. I don't feel that. I don't like Captain Marvel, so that already kind of makes me feel like, okay, well, I don't know what you see in it, but whatever. And again, that's like that's completely on Kevin Feige.
Yeah,
that's completely on him for failing to do that.
Yeah, 100%. They that's another one where it's like that could have been interesting, and then they failed spectacularly. They were like, oh, it's a period piece. It's in the 90s. They show one fucking blockbuster and they make an internet joke, and they think they made a fucking period piece. So fucking lame. Which, by the way, the actress who plays Miss Marvel gave Captain Marvel, the film, like 2 stars on Letterboxd.
That's hilarious.
That's so funny.
As it deserves, yeah. Which only reinforces the idea that a certain movie that came out last year being Marvel's first Rotten Tomatoes score rating is just stupid on all levels.
Yeah.
Because when Captain Marvel came out, everybody was like, this is all right. Right, guys? Anyway, let's get ready for Endgame.
That was the whole thing. That's what happens. It's like, yeah. It's a nice setup for her to appear in Endgame. Like, and I think that's what's happening too. Is like so much shit people would just like push to the side with these films because it's like no. It's coming together. It's all part of it. It's a piece.
That's what happens when you see every movie as a TV episode of a long-standing series instead of as an individual film. Mm-hmm. That's the problem there. That creates that mindset and that mentality.
Because then it's like you get there, but then you turn around and it's like, well, how many of those pieces are just fucking lame? Or just not great?
Quite a bit at this point.
Yeah, but that's why I feel like people are a little harsher. Because it's like we're not building towards anything. Like, people with Black Widow were like we're not building towards anything. Like, it already happened. So I think in the future, especially once we get past this like multiverse shit, if they haven't made a very clear goal, then you're gonna start to see more and more complaints.
And then my last issue with this, and here's the thing. So no one's mentioned at this point that part of Kamala Khan's origin in the comics is that she's an Inhuman. Peter, is that the fact that her identity is part Inhuman in the comics, is that a big part of her character?
Yes.
Or the fact that this was changed in the series can be easily overlooked?
I mean, they completely overlooked her power set to begin with, so like, overlooking the fact that she's Inhuman, I think, will be a cakewalk. But in the comics, she's like the only Inhuman that works. Everyone's favorite Inhuman, basically.
That's successful.
Yeah. What's difficult with her character, she's a newer character, and her origin is tied up into a lot of comic gobbledygook. Because those original superhero characters, they were just making superheroes, right? So they have very standard superhero origins. So like, it's not Marvel, but like Batman. Parents murdered in an alley, wants to fight back against crime, becomes the Bat. You know, the standard superhero origin. Spider-Man, bitten by a radioactive spider, becomes Spider-Man. With Miss Marvel, what had happened is at the time there was this big event. I think it was called Infinity. And it's because Thanos, or most of the Avengers were off-world fighting some invasion that was taking place far, far away from Earth. And Thanos was like, Earth is Avengers-less. Now's my shot. So he invades Earth yet again. And one of the big things was Attilan, which is home of the Inhumans, was floating above New York at the time. They had gone off the moon and they were floating above New York. And the reason why he was on Earth is because he was looking for his son, who was an Inhuman. So he goes to Attilan and he tells, what's his name, Black Bolt, bring, like some Bible shit, bring me the heads of all of your citizens ages, like, I don't know, 15 to 25, however old his son was supposed to be. And in response, what Black Bolt does is he screams at him, with his whole force, destroying the entire city and causing it to crash into the ocean. And when it crashed into the ocean, it released a massive Terrigen mist that floated across the earth and created thousands upon thousands of Inhumans. Why did they do this? Because Marvel Studios no longer had the rights to the X-Men at the time. So what they were trying to do is to turn the Inhumans into the X-Men by creating thousands and thousands of humans like that. And Miss Marvel just so happened to be one of those many thousands of Inhumans that was born. She was walking home one night and that Terrigen mist happened to hit her as she was walking home when she had snuck out to go to some party, and then, that's when she becomes.
So, dare I ask, Peter, then why is she not an Inhuman in the Marvel Studios version?
Because they got the rights back to the X-Men, and they told the Inhumans to go fuck themselves. Kevin Feige never wanted to make the Inhumans movie. I think that was clear. I think that was the one film that was forced upon him, and he was able to get it unforced upon him and onto a shitty show that he had nothing to do with, so he didn't give two shits. So, yeah. If anything, maybe changing her power set had more to do with, I don't want any hint of Inhumans near my fucking Marvel universe, and less to do with Mr. Fantastic.
I think that's the reason. But you also know what that means. Where else were the Inhumans? That whole Terrigen outbreak that you mentioned in the ocean, that beat for beat, not the city falling into the ocean, but that happened on a little show called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
It did?
That was a big part of the series.
I remember.
Where there were Inhumans in the main cast by the end of the series, but the main character wasn't Inhuman. So that seemingly, like, this decision for this character who I have no connection to, the whole idea that they've changed this entire premise around them not wanting to acknowledge Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or the Inhumans.
You know what?
That disgusts and that insults me.
Thought about it, but I guess that Miss Marvel could have been the perfect connection to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
That's why I'm pissed.
That didn't even occur to me till right now. I guess that's true. Yeah.
That's why it's like, well, why? Literally, why? It's like we're anything, any little thing that could be a connection. Nope.
Yoink. Just take it away.
That ain't happening. And in spite of all of this and Kevin Feige's hatred of the Inhumans, Anson Mount, really?
I'm willing to make some sort of a large bet that he is not in fucking the Doctor Strange.
I would have agreed with you, but I don't fuck with Grace. Like she gets some. I'll show you the clip.
Okay.
I will show you the clip I was talking about and then you'll see what I'm talking about, because I think the hint was there, and you connect the rumors, because she also hinted that Deadpool would be in Doctor Strange.
I 100% can see that.
Yeah,
I think it would be quick.
A cameo, an actual cameo, not a supporting role.
But just to say, like, he's kid friendly now. He's in the kids' films.
Yeah,
I can see that.
So as far as like Miss Marvel, because of this, go fuck yourself. Anyway, let's move on to what we saw this week. I rewatched Licorice Pizza. It's an amazing movie. It is hilarious. It is sweet. I hope you see it. I hope a lot of people see Licorice Pizza. It's now on digital VOD. One of the best films of the year. Oh my God. It was like, that's a movie right there. I also saw the documentary Being James Bond.
Oh.
Daniel Craig, because it came on the No Time to Die bonus features. And it honestly, it's good, but it's also pretty sad, because not that it's sad in nature, but just like it's only 45 minutes and they gloss over everything, and it's all just kind of like, this is like, this could easily be a 2-hour documentary, but it's not. About Daniel Craig and him being James Bond. And a lot of things, it just feels rushed and incomplete. So I enjoyed it, but it is what it is. I also saw Parallel Mothers, starring Penelope Cruz, the new film by Pedro Almodovar. It's a really interesting movie. It's a wonderful, like, switched at birth narrative drama, but also with some other stuff that's exclusive to the people of Spain that's kind of interesting. So I really enjoyed it. I also saw the movie Mass.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.
I guess I saw it too. I completely forgot.
You did see it?
Yeah, I did.
Interesting. Reed Birney, Martha Plimpton, Ann Dowd, and Jason Isaacs. Powerhouse performances. Wonderful monologues. The emotion, the power. It is, I mean, the whole movie is these two couples hashing it out because one of their sons killed the other one.
Oh, you gave
and
it
that's
away.
That's not a pleasant thing. I did give it away, huh? Oops. Oh well. Anyway, that's a
half
movie.
The film right there. Like, what the fuck is going on?
That really is, but it's a great fucking movie. Powerful performances that seemingly also got overlooked. Which is par for the course.
You know what's crazy? You know what the director is? Because I don't.
Frank Kantz, right?
I don't know why I looked it up. He's the goofy stoner from The Cabin in the Woods.
Is that so?
Yeah. That's good for him.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Got I don't know if I got nominated. I have to assume I got an Oscar nomination for screenplay. It should have.
Mass, really?
Yeah, I think it should have. I'll have to look that up, but I mean that should win. Anyway, Drive My Car by Ryusuke Hamaguchi. This film is nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, and International Film.
It is the length of a road trip.
It is literally 3 hours, starring Hidetoshi Nishijima. I love this movie. It's kind of a sleeper where it's like you watch it and it's like, I really enjoyed that, but it really surprised me how much it resonated and how much I'm still thinking about it, I think, 2 weeks later. It is deceptively a quiet movie, but I have to say, mesmerizing and magnetic, and some of the most authentic / captivating conversations ever put to film. It's a great movie. It is a movie about grief, but not a sad movie. So that's a plus. Where it's not like where Mask can be pretty depressing. Whereas Drive My, well, I mean, not overwhelmingly, but still,
I guess it depends who you are.
Tense.
Depending on the person, it can absolutely be overwhelmingly depressing.
Sure.
For me, not so much.
And no, but moments they're like, oof, this is kind of hard to watch. I'm saying like Mask is nobody's idea of a fun movie to see. That's the thing. Drive My Car is it's much more subtle. The performances are much more subtle, but it's also more genuine. You need to see. Have you seen that one yet?
I need the time, but I will.
You need the time. You need to see Drive My Car. You need to see Licorice Pizza. Those wonderful movies. Of course, I'm watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the show nobody cares about on Disney Plus, since it just dropped in Disney Plus. So I may be the only one in the world doing that, but
that's true.
That's me. Last thing, I also made some new purchases. I acquired West Side Story on Blu-ray, and it is a beautiful Blu-ray disc, a Target exclusive one. Oh my god, it's so good. It's the definitive version, as most Target exclusives are. And I also acquired a the Batman poster.
The Batman.
That's by Matt Reeves.
Such a weird coincidence, because the other night I opened my door, and just randomly, probably by magic, there was a The Batman poster there. It's pretty...
Right, but it ain't the same one I got.
No, it's not the same. Mine's better, but it's pretty...
I would say mine is better, but I mean, because at least I put mine on display, and it's in a very beautiful place.
Who says I do not?
You do. You've said it many times you don't put any of your posters on display.
I'm like a dragon. I hoard the gold. I don't spend it.
Anyway, that's what I've been up to. Yeah, great. What about you?
I saw Mass.
All right, great. Let's get to our first review. Turning Red. If I am not mistaken, I want to say this is the 23rd animated feature by Pixar Studios, Pixar Animation Studios. That's I want to say it's the 23rd. I very well could be mistaken, but you know what? I don't even know. It could be, could not be. It's in the low 20s, I want to say. Turning Red here. And it dropped on Disney Plus late last week. And it is a movie.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about this. Turning Red. Directed by Adom Shi. I probably said that wrong. My apologies.
Are you really sorry?
As sorry as I can be when it comes to this. So, I don't know. Growing up is a beast. 13-year-old May is experiencing the awkwardness of being a teenager with a twist. When she gets too excited, she transforms into a giant red panda. Yeah, the description's pretty on the nose.
Yeah, I would say so.
Starring Rosalie Xiang, Sandra Oh, Ava Morse, Hyain Park, Matre Ramakrishna, Orion Lee. Okay, I'm just gonna butcher all these fucking names. I don't want to do that. Directed by, I already said her name. She also directed the short Bow, which played before Incredibles 2.
That's right. I also want to say it won the Academy
right?
Award.
I was just guessing. Did it really play before Incredibles 2?
No, yeah, you're right.
Oh my god. Yes.
I think you are. And even if you're not, it won the Academy Award for Best Short Film.
It did. I really liked. I don't know if we ever talked about it. We must have.
We should have. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah. So, Turning Red.
It's probably better than the Pixar movie because I can't remember the Pixar movie.
I remember watching Bow. I don't remember what movie it was in front of. But yeah, Turning Red.
Let's just say this movie really came out at a very interesting moment for Disney and Pixar and their relationship with each other.
Yeah, that's true.
Really, and I'm not just talking about the pandemic and how Disney has like shafted them and put them on a streaming service the entire time. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, Pixar has come out pretty boldly and said Disney's full of shit. They don't.
Can you believe that happened?
I mean, they were very upfront. Like, we've had scripts with awesome representation just come back fucking
representation for the LGBTQ community, especially
specifically the LGBTQ community, just fucking ripped to shreds by, you know,
at Disney's behest.
Yes,
quote unquote.
At Disney's behest, because they don't want to. And you know what? This isn't new. Like, there's
no.
I remember the creator of with the two kids in the forest. What's it called? God damn it!
Which forest?
It's a cartoon show.
Two Kids in the Forest.
It's not
Gravity Falls.
Gravity Falls. There it is.
Is it Mike Rianda?
Oh, I can't remember his name.
Because Mike Rianda was from Gravity Falls and he directed Mitchell vs. the Machines. But I can't remember if he was like the actual creator of Gravity Falls.
I don't think he was the creator.
I will look it up right now while you go ahead and you were
saying. But I remember specifically the creator of Gravity Falls. I think he even said this on Twitter. He said this somewhere. Where he's like, yeah, I had specific characters in that show that were supposed to be gay, and Disney just said no. They didn't let me do it. And I remember he kind of just said it in kind of like fuck them kind of way. Like, I don't know how Disney doesn't know that the people that like love Disney
work for them. Well, work for them
specifically
first.
Are fucking gay as shit. And I say that very respectfully, but they are very.
You say that lovingly as Chloe Zhao would say.
But they are incredibly gay. Have you ever seen the Disney obsessed millennials? Okay, it is. They look like they've jumped off a pride parade. Okay, like it's. I don't know how Disney because especially. I guess they
sell Pride merchandise in their parks.
Well, yeah,
so they have Mickey ears that are Pride. Right. Yeah.
And then to the Christians, oh no, it's a Jesus rainbow. I did watch a little bit of this because it immediately started playing after the film finished, Turning Red. It's like, first of all, it was actually really cool. I don't know if you saw it. You should see it.
I meant to, but I haven't. The documentary of the making of the movie?
Documentary making of, because they kind of get into the lives of like the top brass making the film, because it's like, it's not only that it was the first like woman director on her own directing a Pixar film, but...
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, damn, that's right. Brenda Chapman was supposed to be the first, literally over 10 years ago, but she was replaced by... somebody else with Brave.
Yeah. That's why no one gives a shit about Brave anymore. But yeah, but not only, it was like all the top brass creatives were all women. Like all. And,
I shouldn't be wowing, but I mean I am because that's just weird.
Yeah.
I mean, weird as in like that's just not what we're used to. I mean, it should have been the entire time, but now that it's actually happening, it's like wow, maybe. There's some progress being made.
At Pixar,
it looks like.
When they're like, Disney's asleep, sneak in the gays. And yeah, I think it's like the lead or the producer's a woman, and then like the chief animator is a woman. She's a lesbian, and like because they literally get into it, it's like, oh yeah, like I just had kids for the first time, and my wife is a firefighter. And like stuff like that, and I was like, that's pretty badass. they would talk about like, you know, just all the creative stuff, like, oh, like, okay, there needs to be smoke here, and when they move, they need to move like just getting into the nitty gritty, but then also going like, hey, this was during a pandemic, and yeah, like one of them I think was pregnant during the whole time that they were, not the whole time, because obviously these films take years, and babies only take I think 2 months to be born. I don't know, I'm bad at math. But, you know, she was like, oh, she was pregnant through this. So, yeah, like, they really push that. And again, like, Miss Moreno, she has worked at Disney. not at that position, but in the parks and stuff like that. And she could probably tell you the same thing. Like, very diverse young Disney lovers, I guess, sort of make up the core of the Disney cult, as I lovingly call it. But not respectfully. Lovingly, but not respectfully. That one, not respectfully. So the fact that Disney didn't realize that they would get shit for this eventually would blow up in their face, like spectacularly so, is insane to me. And what Pixar did, I thought was, you know, pardon the pun, brave. And I love to see it. I think it's great. And also,
it's about fucking time too.
Speaking of the film, there's a lot of great forward pushing things in Turning Red, but at the same time, and it sucks, but there's so many instances where I'm like, 100% they cut some LGBT shit from this film. 100%.
Several characters.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, again, like, it's one thing to go like, maybe this is this, or because you remember we speculated with Luca, like, maybe they were looking at this. We don't really know, but
although, again, to be clear, that Enrique Casarosa,
I believe him
made
when
it very clear.
He said that was just a friendship thing. But I'm talking about how, like, it wasn't like.
By the way, he didn't say that it's not bad if that's how you took it.
Yeah. But he's just saying when he was thinking of it, you know, if you want to take it in a different way, it's art, right? Like, you can. Yeah. But, you know, it's just while he was making it, he was looking at it specifically a different way. But here, it's because this came out right after all that other shit blew up. It's so obvious that you can see, like, oh, there was definitely supposed to be this kind of stuff in here, and it was.
And you saw the news this morning.
Did I? What happened?
About Lightyear.
Oh yeah, where they had they had a Rise of Skywalker lesbian kiss in the background probably for 2 seconds, and then even that they were like, no, we gotta cut it. The Rise of Skywalker didn't do as well as we wanted. It was clearly because of the gay kiss obscured in the background for 2 seconds. So they cut it out, and the hand wringing against them caused them to put it back in.
Yeah.
Which, okay, I'm gonna say something, and you don't have to jump on it. It's just I need to say it. 'Cause I don't mean to push this off course somewhere else, this discussion, but I kind of have to say it.
It's Red Spotlight. It wouldn't be that show if it wasn't for getting pushed on a side tangent. I mean, hell, let's do it.
This is what pisses me off when people bitch about, like, oh, my freedom of speech, right? Like, when people boycott a company, it is not quote unquote censorship. The reality is, when we talk about censorship, it's the government cracking down on you or putting you in jail or doing a lot of the shit that's going on in Russia. That's censorship, okay? A group of people angry with the practices of a company, so they push them to change. That is not censorship. That is the epitome of free fucking speech, and harnessing that power that you have using your free speech. So the fact that everyone came out, well, not everyone obviously, but a lot of people came out and were severely fucking pissed with Disney and pushed them to change, and then they did. In some instances, obviously they didn't do a 180, but there is a movement in a positive direction because people were angry, came out and demanded change. That is, again, free speech. And it is not, it is the exact same as if someone comes out and says, we want Tucker Carlson off the air. That's not censorship. That's using your free speech to push for something, for a company to make a certain decision that better resembles what the customer wants, right? That's right. The free market. That's free speech. That's all this shit that a lot of people claim they like, but then when it bites them in the ass, they cry about it.
And a lot of these people, they don't just cry about it. They're also complete hypocrites, as they are with any other issue. Sure. I mean, these people bitch about cancel culture, and then, them getting canceled because, let us be homophobic and racist. We know we're bad, but we deserve to live too. That's how they are. Meanwhile, at the exact same time, when they get control of legislatures all over the states of the United States, what do? They limit free speech.
They limit it. They limit the ability for people to live.
Every time in every state, we talk about Texas and Florida.
Well, this is about the Texas-Florida bill.
Well, the Florida thing was the don't say gay thing, which literally prohibits the discussion of the existence of gay people for teachers and students in the third grade level and lower. But then in Texas, what the governor did, which was literally form a Gestapo to hunt down the parents of transgender children and prosecute them for quote-unquote child abuse.
Gay-stapo. I just had to. Sorry. Dark humor. I had to throw it in there. But you're right. That's exactly what they did, right? And this is very.
Florida made it more legal to run over protesters.
Yeah, they literally said they literally lowered the what's the word? The threshold for what you would need to just run over fuckers because they got mad at people protesting. These people fucking hate free speech. They hate it.
There was a bill introduced in some legislature. I can't tell if it was Arizona or Texas or Florida anymore, but this bill introduced the idea that a woman that got an abortion should be charged with the death penalty. The death penalty.
But kicking them off YouTube or Twitter, that's Nazi Germany. It's fucking ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous. Yeah, that was my little off course thing going on. So what were we even talking about? Turning red.
Yeah.
I don't know how to bring it back from that. Sorry.
Well, the Disney and it blowing up in their faces and everything. And yeah, it's just that the fact that this movie came out at this time is pretty ironic. But yeah, I think we can leave that there and go back to the film. But then again, there's another controversy with this movie. Well, not really. Well, there's a controversy specifically with this film and how the reaction has looked like. And we'll get to that. But I just say that for me, this is, like, I gotta be honest with you, like, immediately, almost from the first 5 minutes, I'm like, this is great. This is amazing. It's not going to go downhill. And it kind of didn't for me. Like, I have to say, like, full force, like, I'm loving Disney animation right now. I'm loving Pixar animation in particular. Wow, what a turnaround from just a few years ago. What a complete turnaround. The quality has really, in my view, gone up through the roof. Kind of reaching new heights for me, I'll be honest with you. This is the most innovative. This is the most original. Both of these studios have been in over a decade. And I am loving it. And I'm here for it. For better or for worse. We've had various examples of differing quality, shall we say. But I'm appreciating all of it. I really am. And I love that these are different stories told by different people. And you can tell in the execution and overall delivery of these stories. You can tell that the people who made Turning Red were very much authentic from that community. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, it shows all over the movie. The film in and of itself is kind of a character. I love that it's got style. And I love how much in your face it is about it. And I love the humor. Ultimately, the genuine heart-to-heart stuff as well here. And there was this wonderful tweet out there by Ian, I believe, Ian Wilmot from Fresh Baked, and it kind of blew up, where it really just encapsulates the film, where it's like the movie isn't about like learning how to like hide away your cringe, or not getting rid of it, but to not let that, get in the way of living your life, or letting that be something that brings you down, something to that effect. And I think it's a beautiful message at the end of the day, but it's also just an entertaining as hell film. It's just a wonderful, unique story. The fact that we have the story just basically about elementary school aged or preteen girls. And when you realize, like, after you finish watching the film, it's like, wow, it is sad that that's kind of a unique perspective that we hardly ever get to see. We're in 2022, but that's the reality of it all. And quite frankly, for my money, I love this. I loved every minute of it. I was cackling. Oh my goodness. I mean, I don't want to make it sound as if like this is the best movie Disney's ever made, but I think it's another example of this era of animation from both Pixar and Disney is delivering in ways I honestly could not have expected it to be the case even like 4 years ago. 4 years ago when we discussed animation with both Pixar and Disney, it seemed like it was just kind of stagnant and like
I'm boring.
I mean, it wasn't, yes, uninteresting. Now, look at all these different stories that are being told. I love May. That's the main character's name, right? Oh my God. I love the throwback to the 2000s, man. Like, I knew I was going to like eat it up, but just how it starts off with like her looking into the camera like she was Malcolm in the Middle. I love that. And narrating all the, her daily life. These characters are so like hilarious and charming and real. Every moment of this movie just kind of like embraces you. And I cannot for the life of me think of people having the reactions in the negative variety that I've seen, because it's just like, to me, it's just kind of unfathomable. Like, you really have to go out of your way to like not like stories told from the perspective of different kinds of people, shall we say, for you not to really enjoy the film. You don't have to like it, but there's been some kind of an interesting hatred or just distaste from people who either do not want stories told from either a young female perspective or a young Asian female perspective, or there's a far more, I would even say, idiotic standpoint from the parents, quote unquote, because tampons and periods are mentioned in the movie. And that's a whole different thing in and of itself. This film feels so real, man. It feels so authentic. I said this last week, that I thought the Batman was kind of an instant classic. The same can be said for Turning Red.
I have seen Turning Red, I think about 3 times now.
You're kidding.
No.
Oh my god. No, wait. The music that was such a perfect callback to the 2000s. You have no idea. I have no idea.
And the whole thing, it's like, with the mobs, like, they're called Four Town, but there's 5 of them. Like, it's so stupid. I agree in that, like, I have been digging Disney animation lately, because just a few years ago, you
were very, very critical.
It was hell for me, because it was like Ralph Breaks the Internet.
By the way,
and
hell,
2,
yes,
and then
yes, but we also got Moana and Zootopia.
Yeah, you get a shiny, little diamond in a mound of shit, but it felt like every fucking Pixar.
Well, that stretch, Incredibles 2, Cars 3, after off of Finding Dory, but then you also had Disney Animation, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and Frozen 2, and then Toy Story 4 came out. Like, everything was just sequel.
Yeah. And, you could say, like, Toy Story 4 is not bad, but
some obviously were better than others. Not to say that they were all, like, crap.
It's just, I don't know, it's boring, right? And it's just like, is this all Disney is, especially Disney animation? Is this all it is now? But then, for me anyway, the like 1, 2, 3 punch. Yeah, of like Luca came out. And I was like, I like this. It's it's the animation style is trying to do something different. It's not going for, the Oscar, I guess you can say. It's not trying to be as the emotional gut punch as humanly possible, like a quote unquote Pixar film is supposed to. It's just this light, breezy, still emotional, right? But just like the culmination of the word adorable, film. And it's very different in speed and style of anything Pixar had done before. And I was like, that's neat.
It's also different with who it speaks to primarily on a different level as well.
For sure. Yeah, it's young Italian boys. They finally got their film. And then you had Encanto. And it's still very much Disney, but it's a different type of film with a different type of story and resolution, and
with amazing music,
and also and then now Turning Red. And I think for me, the thing that, if there's one thing that really connects them together, you could say representation, you could say like sort of a child's point of view or something like that. But for me, it's that every one of these films has, I feel, so much humanity to them.
Yes.
It's about people loving each other in one way or another. And I know this good sir here likes to deem me the death of hope, and that I am who's
I haven't
says
called you that in years. I haven't called you that in years.
Okay, yeah,
Kai, on the other hand,
face.
calls you that every chance he gets. I've not said that about you in years.
Okay, sure, whatever. But
Kyle does every time.
For me,
he called you a coward last podcast.
Did. Fuck him. But for me, what I've noticed moves me emotionally the most in film isn't seeing something really sad or like horrific or stuff like that, because people will see like really like, I don't know, fucked up movies, it gets sad, and I'm like, it's depressing, but it's not like, it doesn't. I guess it moves me emotionally, but it doesn't move me in the way where it's like it's really hitting me. I don't know, because it's more of like depressing. I don't know. It's hard to say it. The thing that does, I think, move me more emotionally is that sort of humanity that you see, where it deals with very real people and real issues and sort of the scars that people can leave each other. But it's not about hating each other. It's not about hurting each other. It's about overcoming that hurt and learning to love each other. And that's very cheesy. And but
we're not opposed to cheese on this network.
Not. We are very pro cheese here. And that kind of stuff, I admit it. I mean, we love. That's the reason I fucking love superhero film. So right, like I still talk about how that
Raimi.
Yes, that's what it is right there. The fucking, it's New York. You attack one of us, you attack all of us. Hey, bada bing. That kind of shit. It's cheesy and it's dumb, but it's effective, at least on me.
Man, I didn't put it together until you actually just said it, but I can't recall a time where we've had like a 1, 2, 3 punch with Luca, Encanto, and Turning Red like this. I think the last time, I gotta be honest, which like, I'm just talking about Pixar here, because I'm just gonna talk about Pixar. I feel like, because Disney Animation had some clunkers in that last 2000s decade, not 2010s to the 2000s.
See, what happened was when Pixar was at their height, Disney Animation kind of sucked. But once Disney Animation started kicking up, Pixar started getting into the sequels.
John Lasseter was the CEO, he was the chief executive officer of both of those animation studios.
Yeah.
That's what happened. But you know what was a really good 1, 2, 3 hit punch was Well, technically, never mind. I skipped Wall-E in there. But that run of Pixar films
Oh, for sure.
in that decade, like, one after the other.
Yeah.
Like, I think from, like, in the span of, like, 4 years, you had Ratatouille, Up, and Toy Story 3. But then I also forget that you had, like, Wall-E in between. And then as far as Disney animation is concerned, they had Princess and the Frog. So that was a good, like, run of movies. Yeah. But it wasn't completely, like, flawless. I'm curious, though, because we did skip. They are part of this new era, but we kind of skipped these 3 films. Seemingly, we appreciated them for the fact that they were original, but they also have their issues. Whereas I think it really hit perfectly with Luca, Encanto, and Now Turning Red. But I'm referring to Onward, Soul, and Raya.
Yes. These films definitely hit more with other people than me. They're the films that I give an A for effort.
Yeah.
I'm really sad that I didn't like Soul in the way that because for me, I thought, oh my God, I love this.
I was hyping it up, man.
Yeah.
I was like, that trailer, it's like the concept, it's like, it's got to be the best movie of the year. I just know it. And then I didn't love it the way that I wanted it to.
Yeah, that's the one that hurt.
That's partly on me, though. I mean, I shouldn't, but still, it's also on the movie.
And then Raya, again, A for effort, but I think my feelings on Raya. And then what was the other one?
Kyle's favorite, Onward.
Oh, Onward. Again, that's another one where it's like A for effort. I like the ultimate message, and I think it's a really cool one.
Yeah.
But the overall film, it's like, it's okay. Those 3, again, A for effort. They're going for shit, but they're just not hitting with me. And then these last 3, they fucking hit. So it's like,
they're hitting it perfectly, I would say.
And again, I'd rather have an Onward though than a Cars 3. Like that's just the way I feel. I'd much rather have that.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, shall we get into this movie?
Yes.
Clearly, both of us are kind of like overly enthusiastic with it.
Yeah. Well, for one, again, when it first started, this was the first time in a long time, maybe ever, where I'm like, dang, this doesn't feel like a Pixar film. It feels very different, and I really liked it. The movie just, boom, it's like it's in your face.
Literally from the beginning. I was grabbed immediately, and I was so pissed that I was robbed of a theatrical experience with this movie, because I can only imagine just like the audience reaction to these first 5 minutes, or this first 8 minutes especially.
I was about to ask you, did they release an animated short along with it?
They have not been doing that with the Disney Plus releases, no.
Oh, really?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, fucking lame.
And if they do have animated short films that were at one point supposed to accompany them, they'll save them for a Disney Plus dump, I would assume.
That sucks too, right? Because you know that there's people making those shorts that are like, yes, we're going to catch our big break in front of this film. I mean, I feel like that's how we got this film, right? Because Bao made such an impression.
That's how we got Luca, too, because Enrico Casarosa directed La Luna all those years ago.
Again, it's a little Italian boy representation. So, yeah, immediately I'm like, I'm really loving the energy of this film, and I don't think I feel bad saying this. I'm like, wow, these little girls are annoying. But they're supposed to be. It's
You were annoyed? Oh, come on. They're so... Well, I
they're
can
so
see it.
loud
Yes,
and in your face. And they're just... They're 13-year-old girls. You don't even have to add girls to that. They're 13-year-olds, right? That's at the age where... Again, that's why it's called the awkward age. You're no longer a cute little kid. You're starting to be seen as an adult. But you still have so much of your little kid tendencies. and to an adult, you come off as annoying. But you know what? I don't feel bad saying that because the movie acknowledges it. I think they even have.
I gotta be honest. Maybe I wasn't annoyed because I actually work with kids. So
are they growing
far
on you?
more? No, I'm far more annoyed with the actual kids, maybe
okay.
not so much in this Pixar movie.
Well, I think like one of the math teacher, he's because they're like, oh, she's overachieving if slightly annoying, younger. But
that would be me.
Yeah.
If I were a teacher, that would be me.
But it's
just keeping it real.
In a very it's never actually annoying. The characters are never grating, right? In fact, you love the characters.
I love them so much.
And again, because it's this adorable thing of like these little girls, and they just love each other, and they're just such good friends, and they just more than anything, they just want to experience life together, right? And I can't remember who's the smallest one that like yells everything, but she's fucking hilarious,
isn't she? Yeah.
The line that still makes me laugh is when they're talking about how like they had asked their parents, which again, another classic move where you're asking your parents for something, you are like, you have almost no shot in hell that they're gonna say yes, so you bust out the PowerPoint and you put on a whole presentation trying to get them to say yes, and they just fucking shut you down. Oh my god. But like
relatable, right?
Relatable. And then the day after, they're in I guess PE, and they're talking about it, and she's like, my parents called it stripper music, what's wrong with that? Like immediately. So fucking funny. And I even think May says crap in the very beginning of the movie when she tries to do like a cartwheel. She's like, crap, real quick. Yeah, it's actually refreshing in the way that the characters are portrayed. I think they don't shy away from topics.
No,
like the girls in this what do you call it, movie, they're little perverts. But like every 13-year-old,
a 13-year-old being a pervert.
Oh well, I never, but just the way that they're obsessed with like this goofy looking store clerk, and he's like the epitome of like attractiveness to them, and the way,
is it Devin?
Yeah, Devin. And even the little ones, it's like, my mom cut his hair once, it's very soft. They're just wild and crazy group of little girls that are just so excited to grow up. And then of course their parents aren't excited, and that's where the tension is, right? But I even that I think is done so well, because the mom character, she's over the top, and she does some things that I almost had to turn off the movie the first time I was watching it, out of like secondhand embarrassment. I couldn't take it.
You want to get into it, or you'd rather forget that it happened? You
explain it real quick.
Well, okay. So, look, this is after May encounters Devin, and she's back in her room, and all of a sudden she has her notebook, and she gets the sensation out of nowhere to doodle on her notebook pictures of Devin, and this is animated so brilliantly, she herself is caught by surprise with feeling some kind of way, let's just say. And then she goes all crazy with her illustrations.
But see, there was a moment, right, where she makes a face, and then she's like,
right?
Is anyone around? And then she rolls her ass under that bed, and I'm like, what what is gonna happen? Because
Like that's the moment where I remembered you saying that you saw Grace's review, and that I have to imagine that's the moment where she thought masturbation was about to happen.
yes, I think it's as close as you can get to that topic in a kids film, because it's very clearly like overt sexual feelings, and you're sort of hiding that you're expressing them from your parents, right? Like that's what it is. In the most basic sense, talking about like masturbation and stuff like that. Like that's, and then what's also, I think, well, you have to explain what eventually happens, because that's the part that really.
Well, she drew all of that. Her mom knocks on the doors, and so she quickly gets out of the bed, out from the bottom of the bed, gets on top, and then her notebook is on the floor. And so this entire time, while her mom is, peeking in through the door, May is trying to maintain eye contact and not look down at the notebook. She looks at the notebook. Her mom looks at it, and she's like horrified by what she sees. And instead of like thinking of what a rational person would think of, like, oh, well, she's just had a bunch of emotions and hormones, and it's understandable. And I think most parents these days would hopefully know that while awkward, however it would be, and it would be, there would be a logical course of action to take with explaining to your child that this is perfectly natural. That's not what happens. So she drags May with her. They get in the car, and she recognized that who that person was that she was drawing was Devin. Mm-hmm. They drove all the way to the convenience store. They get off. The convenience store is filled with people, one of which happens to be Tyler, who is a classmate
to them.
The quote, he's Urkel,
yeah,
basically.
He's
in this.
Or who's that snitch character from Recess?
I forget, man. Yeah, that's a throwback in and of itself. Recess. That's a great TV show as well. And the mom literally throws the notebook at Devin with these drawings.
I was having heart palpitations.
And then, and everyone around the store immediately it just starts crowding them and like seeing all these images. And this, I don't even know what she said. I was just kind of like horrified, secondhand horrified for May. It's like, oh my God, I was just in disbelief with what I was watching.
I couldn't take it. It was I was like, oh my God. Because it's like, okay, to me, the big embarrassing moment is the mom sees the pictures, right? Like that's the big punchline. But then they kept going. And they're like, no, we're driving to the store and we're going to confront Devin. And then and then there's other classmates there, specifically the kid she fucking hates most at school and hates her back. And then when they show the pictures, oh my God. And then, so all of that is insane and horrifying. And I never thought like a scene like that could be in a Pixar film. And I'm so happy that it is. One, because it was very funny. And again, it's a very stylized film too. So there's a lot of like exaggerated, like, you could definitely tell like anime inspiration.
Yeah, between this and Luca, it seems that Pixar is like dipping their toes into more stylized animation than they were previously.
And again, I think it's working wonders. I really, really enjoy it. But what I love is her response, because when they cut back to her in her house after the whole thing has gone down, she's like, just like. Just losing it, and she's like, okay, well, it's fine, I can move, I can change my name, like it'll be okay. And then she just starts crying, and then I think what is so in tune with that experience as a kid is she gets angry at herself. Like, why did I feel that way? Why did I draw those things? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, that's not normal, that's not who I am. And what I love so much is that the last thing she says is she's like, okay, like you just have to never do that again. Which is to me, it's so perfectly ironic because it's like, this is just, that was your first step. You were going to be doing and feeling a lot of those types of feelings, right? So, and of course, the very next thing that happens when she says like, okay, just have to never be like that again, is she turns into the panda that night, which is, of course, a big ol' allegory for, honestly, multiple things, right? Of course, puberty, of course, specifically to women,
women, puberty.
Period. Yeah.
Yes.
Like a period, puberty, and then just general change, I think, right? Like as you, of course, the puberty.
I mean, she's hiding. She has to hide that she's a panda from the world that won't obviously accept that. That's a different allegory in and of itself.
Well, I guess for me, because there's several things, right? Because one, they talk about how like she starts to smell more, she's hairier, she puts on weight, like of puberty.
I didn't even make the connection.
Yeah, of course,
but puberty, there it is,
right there. And then and then of course, the whole period thing is very direct with her mom. Like, she's red. The change only happens to women to be the panda. There's an anger component to it all.
Wow. That's there.
There's the emotion, but then there's another layer too where sometimes when you're about that age and girls start to develop, they sometimes start to get a lot more attention because they developed a little sooner than maybe some of their classmates. And I think you can even tie that into the fact that she gained a lot of popularity through being the panda. The panda. Right. So that's another thing. Like, there's so much, I think, elements that you can tie to, this idea of, quote unquote, the becoming a red panda. So yeah, I think I'm rambling a little bit.
No, it's a really cool movie. I loved it so much.
I do too.
I really did. I mean, I don't even think there's anything I disliked here. It's like, to me, it's like the Batman, where it's like there's genuinely nothing I can like critique from me. Like, I thought this was as good as it could be. Like, really legitimate.
There's so much I feel that like ties in to the film. When I catch myself just falling in love with like little things in a film, that's when I know like I really love a film. Like the dad character, I love him so much. There's the one joke where the mom's really trying to go with her to the quote unquote like mathlete club or whatever, and she's like, don't you want to, you could spend some time with dad. And then he's like, oh, he pops up in the back, and then the mom stares at him, and she's like, I'll go get my note cards. And then he's like, oh. And then like he gets like, he slumps down all sad.
I love that sequence where he was cooking. That was amazing.
And it's a little thing, right? But it's just like, oh, dad's a great cook, And it's so, and then I love how at the end, when she's like, we can, or she invites her friends over for dinner. And again, the friend that she had an issue with, there's little things I think that tie in through it, because throughout the film, that specific friend, I forgot her name, Miriam, she's always like, I don't know about that Miriam girl. I don't think she's good. And da-da-da. She's always talking shit, which is also funny because like halfway through the film, when May's like, no, like, you guys can't be here. My mom already doesn't like you. And then Miriam's like, wait, your mom doesn't like me?
Was it ever like established why of all of them Miriam was the one she didn't like?
See, I assume it's just because like she's I don't know, like she's not, it's not that she's a bad kid, but she's not like an achiever, like ultra achiever type, and the mom's like,
that's what I assumed as
like,
well.
oh, she's not as good, right? It's just one of those things where it's like, because she always says that, I don't know about that girl. I think she holds you back. I think this, I think that. I think she just thinks she's a weird little girl, and her perfect Mei Mei needs high achieving, non weird friends, something like that. But of course, like when they invite them at the end, and Miriam's like, for his cooking, hell yeah, right? Like it's well established that he's just a great cook. The fact that and also like the fact that the fight between her and mother was because they didn't approve of him. I don't know. There's just a million
that
little
third
things.
act, man, the panda on panda stuff.
But that's another thing. The whole thing with Four Town and their obsession with Four Town.
Wow,
and the way that the way that they show their like connection to each other is singing the song to each other, and that the way that ties directly into the I don't know, the ritual at the end. Like I fucking lost it. when they climbed out of the rubble to see.
Right, but the Four Town, the guys, like that was hilarious because like you almost think for a second that they fucking died because like they were stuck on the roof, and then when the mom like went through them, you don't see them. And then they like Phoenix, they rise from the ashes, and then they start up the song. Oh my god! Yes, that's
when they hit that high note. It's like woo, and then it's like, it's just such a well put together film, and it's so funny and it's so adorable. It has a really nice message, just about like, it's about learning. When you're at that age and you're just learning to become your own person, right? It's about growing pains. If that wasn't already the name of a show, that probably would have been the name of this movie. So I don't know. I love so much about it, and I've maybe already said this, but the relationship between Miriam and the mother, I think, is really perfect. Mei Mei and her mother. Yeah. Because, again, the mother, like she does some foul shit, some bad shit. But it all comes.
Is your cat okay?
She's never okay.
Okay, she seems to be making a lot of noise.
Hey. Stop it. It comes from a huge place of love, right? And she just wants her to be connected at the hip with her daughter. And when you find out the stuff would happen between her and her mom, you can maybe think that like, she was so hurt about the growing apart between her and her mom that subconsciously she's afraid of that happening between her and her daughter. And she's just trying to prevent that. But in her trying to prevent that, she's causing it, right? It's the cycle. What do they call it? Generational trauma. That word keeps coming up again. But that's what it is, right?
Yeah. I also have to say, like, when I look at movies like Luca, Encanto, and Turning Red, and the messages that they're spreading, and how effective they are at spreading those messages, I have to say I'm a little bit envious of this generation that gets to grow up with these movies. And I have to think that these films are doing a lot of good with hopefully helping families heal with whatever they're going through, and hopefully creating better human beings as a result of having these movies.
For sure.
And these stories.
But I guess, and I'm not to say that this always happens, right? But at least
right.
From what I've seen currently of the United States, or really definitely here, but maybe also the world at large. I can't say exactly, but definitely in a lot of Western countries is if anything gives me hope in the world, it's younger people.
Yeah.
Like from millennials downward. I think the younger you get, the more, at this point in human history, the more tolerant they are, the more just the more they care about the world, and making
Yeah.
it better. And I think that's reflective of the art, right? Because
Yeah.
who's making these films? Millennials are.
New storytellers.
They're the ones, right?
Yeah.
Because you see the director, what's her name? Because
Is it Damishi?
it's about
Damishi?
Yeah.
Damshi?
it's about her experience in the year 2002 as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, Domshi. Let me see her bio. Does it say? Oh no, I thought it would say like her age, but she looks young. You know, definitely millennial, right? And the same can be said for stuff like Luca, and
Enrico Casarosa.
yeah, and you know, stuff like that, stories like that, and I think again their experience is what is sort of pushing them to create stories about breaking cycles of pain and hurt, not through violence, not through violently killing the bad guy as they fall through a chasm of darkness, but through loving.
Now, we mentioned at the top.
It's good.
A little bit that's kind of reserved you mentioned that there were several characters that were not allowed to go all the way with, like, let's say, identity.
Yeah, for sure.
Which ones were you thinking of? There were some that were thinking of the relationship between Miriam and May.
No.
Could have also... I don't think
so.
I didn't read into it, but a lot of people definitely saw
You know
that.
what? And again, I might get some hate for this. I think it's because Miriam looks like a lesbian. I think that's what it is.
Oh my god! But I think you're right, though. Let's be real.
But
yeah.
I don't think Miriam was ever played as that. I
don't think either of them were. No,
but you know who I do think
they're just really they're best friends.
Was the quiet one in the group?
Oh, there was a scene where they were
Priya.
like Priya, yeah, where she was like she's kind of like would she be considered gothic?
Yeah, it's a goth.
Okay, because she had a little bit of a moment with let's say a fellow goth enthusiast, and then the other girls are kind of like
there's a very quick moment where they like nudge each other and then they point like look, and
there's something happening between those two going on over there.
Yeah, a kind of insinuation of like we know her, we know that's probably the way the wind blows with her, or maybe by you don't know, but there is sort of that. I think there is sort of that that feels like an element of the film that was probably there at some point. And then it was taken out.
And then it wasn't.
Yeah. And then this might be less likely, but what's his name? The kid that they fight with all the time.
Tyler. Yeah.
He really loves those boys in motion.
I'm glad you were thinking of that too. The boys in motion. It literally was from That's So Raven, right? That was oh my god, that's exactly what it was ripped from. That's exactly what it was ripped from. That's why I kind of like, brought that nostalgic, because I was a kid in 2002, and that's what I remember watching That's So Raven and the Boys in Motion. That's one of the first episodes of, I think, That's So Raven that I remember seeing. Literally. No, that whole thing with Tyler it took a turn, and then you realize when you retrace your steps of like how he was acting toward them in the because they were very much antagonistic, but then he also comes across as a person that desperately wants to be loved.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like kind of a popularity whore. He wants to be anyway. He kind of coerces Mei to bring out the panda for people to come to his party, but then they encounter him at the concert, and then his reaction to things that were happening. Mm-hmm. With Fort Town, and it's like,
maybe.
And then when you look at where it all ends up, he kind of becomes a member of the group.
I love how.
Can you believe that?
I love it. It's just like kids. They hate each other, and then they find one thing they have in common. They're like, we're best friends now, and then they love each other, and I think it's just so fucking adorable. And then also. And again, I don't know if this is purposeful, but it's funny to me. The same way that Four Town is called Four Town, but there's 5 of them. At the end, now there's 5 of them. With the addition of Tyler.
No, yeah, I think you can piece together some hints and clues there. There were also some others that were thinking of a fairly minor character, Devin.
I don't think Devin is.
He was seen at the concert as well.
Oh, was he? Oh, I didn't see him. He was there.
I didn't see it either, but I saw an image that he actually was there.
All I'm saying is usually the one guy in the big girl group usually turns out, a good chance they're probably gay. So, and again, which is perfect, which is fine. Oh yeah, no,
fine
right.
And great. Yeah,
to me, I just love the they go from just being stupidly antagonistic to each other.
They wanted to kill each other.
Whoa!
I think May almost killed him.
What, she was a panda
with that dodgeball.
Oh, with the dodgeball!
Yeah.
Oh my god! Yeah, that would have taken his head off.
Yeah,
that was fucking great. That was very funny. But the way that they just
oh my god! I almost forgot this moment with how cringe the mom was. Like she was stalking her at school, and she literally took out tampons.
And you know what's so funny? On the second watch, I noticed is when she literally pulls them out and like says it, the entire class like winces, like ooh, including the teacher. Like, oh no, why would she do that?
So much cringe.
I mean, she. But at the same time, I mean, parents like that, they do exist. They do.
Yeah.
I just think it's such an adorable movie, and it's so funny. I got so many laughs from it, and
I love it. 2022 is already off to a great start.
Oh yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Already off to a great start. All right. For the sake of time, shall we go ahead and get to the Batman? We're already moving on 2.5 hours of this. So, the Batman. I reviewed this last week with Peter. I keep saying Peter. With Kyle, Alexis, and David, and I think it was one of the most like overwhelmingly positive reviews we've ever had on the entirety of this podcast.
Time to change things.
Everybody, let's talk. Always you, man. You always have to have the last word. Now, this movie is fucking amazing. I saw it 3 times. It improved each time. It's my favorite Batman movie, bar none.
Bar none.
Mask of the Phantasm definitely is up there. As far as from a Batman standpoint, I would still say Mask is the best version. If you listened to our show last week, you would already be aware that we discussed this at length. And my list, did I not reveal my ranked
right.
list?
You guys actually did a list, didn't you?
Well, Kyle and I did a list of like the Batman movies, the theatrical Batman films, of the ones that I did see. So I haven't seen Batman Forever, and I haven't seen Batman. Although I guess I'm kind of seeing it now because I'm watching Double Toasted's review.
Oh my, it's so good.
Or their Bat movie. Isn't it hilarious though? I'm like, wow, this is great. So I have seen 9 of them, and so from like worst to best, at number 9. Well, I'm not gonna. From worst to best, Batman v Superman, Dark Knight Rises, Batman Begins. I don't remember Batman Begins, so I have to rewatch that one. Batman Returns, Batman '89, Lego Batman, The Dark Knight, Mask of the Phantasm, and The Batman.
Yeah. I have to say, just thinking back, I do like a good number of Batman. Like, genuinely really like a good number of because I really like the Tim Burton Batman film. They're not really... They don't function well as, like, a Batman films, but they're great...
They're great films.
They're great little Tim Burton dark fairy tale superhero films. And I really enjoy them. Lego Batman's fucking great. Mask of the Phantasm is great.
Massively underrated, by the way, Lego Batman movie. I don't know what happened where everybody just ignored that movie.
Because it's a good, like, Batman story as well.
It is.
And then you have I really like Batman Begins. and of course The Dark Knight, right? That's like, and then if you include The Batman, that's like 8 Batman films that I really like, which is pretty good.
Out of what, 11?
Yeah.
8 out of 11 theatrical releases. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. And the Joel Schumacher Batman films, Batman Forever isn't terrible. There's a lot of fun stuff in it. Jim Carrey as the Riddler, of course. And Batman and Robin is terrible, but oh my god, is it terrible in the craziest fuck. And you're finding that out, but it is terrible.
I am. I'm seeing those clips and I'm like, whoa.
It goes for it in all the craziest fucking ways.
And again, in an era where a lot of movies like those are kind of blah and generic now, you really do gravitate toward that back what Schumacher was doing in that. And it's like, you know what? It's not great. It's probably not even good. But man, this is really unique and hilarious. And you got to appreciate that this exists.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, that's one of those things where it's like, I would prefer that kind of movie over a boring film. Because there's so much to talk about. Double Toes did a 2-part movie review on it for a reason.
Yeah.
So overall, the Batman films are actually... I didn't realize how good a track record they had until I sat down and thought about it. I was like, no, like I actually do really like a lot of these.
It's just kind of hard to think because like Batman hasn't been in great company lately with this last era with Zack Snyder and the DCEU.
Well, the thing is, like I think I said this last time. The last Batman film I saw in a movie theater that I really liked was The Dark Knight, and that was in 2008. You know,
yeah,
because then you got The Dark Knight Rises, which. It has a lot of problems for me.
It's got a lot of problems.
And then...
But I think with that movie, though, it's got the hilarious performance by Tom Hardy. The iconic performance by Tom Hardy.
You know what the thing is? The Batman voice, I can't... It's been parodied so much, I can't take seriously anymore. And then the Bane voice on top of it. So when they're talking to each other... I'm sorry. It's so hard to take.
The film's just ruined.
It's fucking. This city won't let you die. Is that right? They won't let me die. Like, to me, like it's so funny because at one time it was viewed as, and even I viewed it. It's like, oh my god, this is so serious. Like this is so serious.
Again, these movies changed the way movies are made, basically.
Sure.
Changed the way blockbuster movies are made. I mean, they wanted to change what Spider-Man was because of these movies. Remember the Amazing Spider-Man movie?
Wait, all
everything.
All that shit was made.
Yeah.
But then looking at it now, it almost feels just as goofy, just in a different way as like the 60s Batman stuff. You know, because it really is that same, like, just that goofy, like... Yeah, I won't let you do it. I'm here to protect Gotham.
It hasn't aged well. It hasn't aged well, man.
Oh, it would be extremely painful. Like,
where is she?
It's I for all the talk of realism, I didn't going back and seeing those films. I'm like, this is goofy though. like it's and that's one of the.
Did you rewatch those recently?
Parts of it. I didn't have enough time to see everything, but especially in the run up to the Batman, I was like, there's so much Batman stuff I just haven't seen since I was a kid. Like, I don't think I've seen Returns since I was a kid. And
wow, that's a long ass time.
So I was like, I need to just refresh.
You're a quarter of a century old.
That is true. Quarter life crisis.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's clearly everyone's favorite, right? What was I even talking?
Batman movies.
Sorry, my dementia
good.
from my old age is kicking in. But what's interesting is people talk about how, like, because the Batman is trying to go for a certain level of realism, and it's in comparing that level of realism to the Dark Knight films. Like Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises. What I found interesting was they're different kinds of realism. The Batman or the Dark Knight films, they feel like they're almost afraid to say that they're Batman like they feel the need to convince the audience about certain things.
Well, that's Nolan.
Yeah.
That all comes from Nolan, because Nolan, I think, very clearly went out of his way to make this feel completely removed from the comic book genre as possible.
Yeah.
They were films that their creator did not want to be associated with the comic book world, and so that's what you get. Like, it is so overtly realistic. Like, one of the things that you can definitely tell the differences off the bat with Matt Reeves and Chris Nolan is how they portray Gotham City.
Yeah, but see, that's what's so interesting to me is there are certain things about the Batman that are more realistic, because when he dives off a building, he uses those fucking squirrel like those are real life things, those like squirrel nets things. Have you seen them? Right? Whereas, Nolan, of course, he has that fake technology and stuff like that. And the Batman, he's just riding a motorcycle. In The Dark Knight, he has that fucking like fucking extreme big ass
Batmobile
car, or the motorcycle. And then of course the Batmobiles, the Batman just has a muscle car. The Dark Knight has a fucking Elon Musk tank. Well, it's not an Elon Musk tank. It didn't explode, 2 seconds.
What did Ben Affleck have?
Ben Affleck, who? And so, anyways, it's interesting. But what's funny is with the Dark Knight films, they spend so much time explaining how they're real, right? So you spend a lot of time as like, well, how's the Tumblr real? Oh, well, it was actually a secret military. It was supposed to create bridges for the military. It was part of the military division. And like, there's a whole scene explaining that shit, right?
Which obviously is very Nolan, and one of the things I've become annoyed with him, it's like so overly focused on plot and plot mechanics for the sake of something, I guess.
Whereas with the Batman, so much of it takes a sort of realistic approach to it, but it never feels the need to explain itself. It never feels the need to turn to the audience and go like, well, this is how it can exist in the real world, right?
Because there's no need for it to. And then also Matt Reeves obviously is a very different visionary than Christopher Nolan, as in clearly Reeves, from all that I've heard, was pulling from comics and wanted them to feel that way.
But like when he does the squirrel suit, he doesn't explain it. It just happens, right?
What's to
There's
explain,
nothing
really?
to explain, right? I think this is perfect, right? There's a whole scene in Batman Begins explaining like the bulletproofness of like, oh, it's Kevlar, it's this, is talking about the suit, right? Like there's a lot of explanation about the suit, whereas in the Batman, it's just fucking bulletproof, right? Like he just starts off and it's just like, and he just keeps going, and you're like, okay, right? So even though that's what I found so fascinating comparing them, is that even though the Batman takes more realistic approaches in a lot of ways, it still feels way more fantastical, because the Gotham City is fantastical, right? It is not just fucking what city did Nolan choose to do? Was it Detroit? It's not just Detroit.
Whichever one of those. I think one of the clear examples is, well, in The Dark Knight, if I'm not mistaken, Bruce Wayne has an apartment in the heart of the city. Mm-hmm. It looked like any ordinary, like, rich person apartment. You couldn't even tell that was a Wayne residency. Whereas here in the Batman, Wayne does have, he lives in the city in an apartment. But
fucking Edgar Allan Poe vomited everywhere.
The production design is brilliant, though, because it brings character, into the Wayne residency.
But I guess this is a long way of me saying it's still very clearly fantastical, so I have hopes that they will include more fantastical Batman characters, because I very much want to see them. I want to see a Mr. Freeze that is not the Arnold Schwarzenegger version. You know, I'd like to see those other types of Batman characters that don't have to be just variations of human beings, you know? Get a little bit more sci-fi with it.
Right.
More fantastic.
So we have Catwoman and we have Penguin in this movie, but they've been done before,
for
clearly.
sure, right? Like, and those are just people, right? And the Riddler, he's a person. The Joker is a person. Mr. Freeze, on the other hand, he's got some sci-fi shit going on.
Poison Ivy,
that's even further. You know, you control plants and shit like that. I really want them to. I like. To me, the film strikes an almost perfect balance of between the realism and the fantastical, and it really is. I guess I'm sorry, I have a lot to say. So,
do you have a lot to say? That's right. And we're at what?
2:34.
We're at 2:34.
Sorry.
Great.
I will talk faster.
I'm not gonna talk because I already said my piece. I love this film. So you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so Batman was created in the... No, I'm not going to go that far back. But with Batman, what I love about this film so much, you know, talking about the line between the fantastical and the realism and the way that I would compare the two characters, one of the biggest things I noticed after having watched the Batman is just how deranged Robert Pattinson plays it. And it's really great because my argument has always been that Batman is a crazy person. Like, he is. He's a good person, but he's crazy. Like, in my mind, he's almost, if not just as crazy as the Joker. And for me, that's what always attracted Joker to Batman, right? Like, he sees the same thing that is within Joker is within Batman. It's just on the other end of the coin, right? Where the Joker is just chaos and doesn't give a shit about human life. Batman is about extreme order and protection of human life at all costs. And, you know, as far as Joker is, as far as he's concerned, that's the perfect dance partner for him, you know? And so they dance.
Look no farther than, well, in any iteration, but maybe not more so than Lego Batman.
Yeah, but that's another reason why I love Lego Batman, because the relationship really is almost romantic in a sense. It's weird. It can get weird, right?
Shout out to Will Arnett and Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah, they're so funny in that one. I love the Lego one. It's on HBO Max, isn't it? I might watch that later tonight. But so my argument has always been that, you know, there's always been just a darkness and just an edge to the character that surprisingly, you know, you see in the comic, you actually see in the animated stuff to a certain extent, right? Like, there is... The Mask of the Phantasm isn't a happy-go-lucky film. There's... You really delve into the sadness of the character.
That's not a happy ending in the least.
But just seeing the comparison between Robert Pattinson and the way he plays it compared to every other live-action version, it's like, wow, there really is a difference. Like a genuine, like, no other person has played it in this way. And I think it suits it so well. And
it also is helped by the setting of the storyline, because he is the youngest Batman, I would say, that we've seen.
I would say
the most rookiest as well.
And he plays it with so much emotion. Like he's that rigid, almost ghost-like being of the night that sort of floats in and out of active crime scenes. But what's so great is, and again, this is where a great director meets a great lead actor makes a great film, is the emotion that he's able to display with his eyes alone. Because so much of Pattinson's dialogue throughout this film is spoken with his eyes.
I think look no further than you could see the panic on his face with the mask on his face when he thought he was going to be unmasked by Riddler in that scene in the prison in Arkham.
Everything. Like when he first said
Right.
Bruce Wayne, the way his eyes, like almost like a cheapish child, he couldn't even look at him. He's so sick, and like he looks at the camera and he's terrified. And then when he says like he's the only one we didn't get, and like sort of the shock and realization, and he looks back at him. And he's like, oh my God, I'm in the clear, you know? But all of that without any dialogue and with, you know, a mask on, right? It's all in the eyes. And I've always been the biggest proponent of wide eyes. And, cause you know why? They look fucking good in live action, okay? They 100% would. They would look amazing. But this is the first film where I'm like, okay, I get it. I get why you can't do it. Because so much of the storytelling is done through the emotion that Pattinson is able to convey through. And by the way, what a great actor. Pattinson is so good in this.
Yeah. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
And here's another thing.
And so are all the actors, by the way. Every single last
all
one
of them are great. Great cast. Fantastic casting. I love Gordon. Perfect.
Yeah, Jeffrey Wright. Oh my God.
Perfect
yes.
for Gordon. But another thing, one of the cool things I think about Batman is this idea that each generation sort of has a different Batman that sort of, and you can see sort of the change in time with the generation, right? So you had the 60s Batman, you know, fun-go-lucky. Adam West
yeah.
is fun. And then you, of course, have the Tim Burton one of the 80s. You have, and then
Joel Schumacher.
It gets a little wild there in the 90s, I'm not gonna lie. But then what's his name?
Nolan?
The Nolan one, but the lead actor.
Oh, Christian Bale.
Right? I think, again, a lot of that like post 9/11 realism, like so much of the films and the character very much reflect that period. And the fact that they go with like in this iteration, hardcore, millennial, nihilist, emo Batman, fucking listening to Nirvana, A1 sauce.
Yeah,
perfect, fucking perfect. Just the and talking about one of my favorite characters, Gotham City. It's so, again, perfect. It's so grimy. Like I feel like I would just driving through the city, I would have to take a shower afterwards. It feels
you would
like
have to go inside because it's always raining, so you could just take a shower outside, you know?
I feel like the rain's even dirty. Just every street corner, and it works so well. It's such a well realized Gotham, with the gothic looking architecture and the sort of, Gotham's always been a difficult nut to crack because it's meant to feel timeless, with sort of the dark gargoyles, the architecture. It's always raining. But it's also a certain level of futuristic to it as well, because you do have characters like Mr. Freeze and stuff like that, and an advanced Wayne tech and weaponry. It's this old meets new type of look to it that's very stylized, I think, and we haven't really gotten that since the old Batman films. Even in like the Snyder films, the little that we do see of Gotham, it's not that. It still kind of feels just like a city.
That was its own issue because Metropolis
just looks like a city too, right? And Metropolis is also Metropolis should look more like fucking Tomorrowland than anything.
It should look more than just a collection of buildings.
Yeah. If to me, I look at it and I'm like, well, I guess that's like New York. I specifically, if you're Marvel takes place in the real world, quote unquote, right? There are no, for the most part, there are no like fake cities, right? That's why there's
Madripoor.
well, that's like a fake island country. But for the most part, that's why there's like
Wakanda.
yeah,
There's some, but for the most part, it's just.
But there's a reason why there's 50 goddamn fucking superheroes running around in New York, because there's no fake cities in the U.S., right? Like it literally is just like L.A., New York. I don't know, fucking other. It reflects more real life. Whereas in DC, you have Gotham, you have fucking
Metropolis.
They name
What's the one that Flash is in?
Central City, I think.
Yeah.
They name dropped another one. Where Nightwing goes. They name dropped it at the end of Bloodhaven. Bloodhaven. It's another city where when Robin becomes of age and becomes Nightwing, Dick Grayson, he becomes his own hero called Nightwing, and he fights crime in Bloodhaven, right? So there's like a million fake city. It's much more fairy tale like in DC. Less reflective, I think, of the real world. So yeah, I really love the look and feel. Oh, and this is another reason why I like Deranged Batman, because only a crazy person would enlist a child to fight crime. And I really, really hope we get Robin. Because I actually think Robin would work so well in this universe.
You know what? I hope so too. I just like I hope the fanboys are gonna come out. Matt probably will if they announce that, one way or the other.
Maybe. I feel like there's been a turnaround. At one point, people were like, "Oh, Robin's lame. Oh, he's gay. Look at his shorts." Early 2000s homophobia. Nowadays, it's like, "Oh, those shorts are cute. Where do they sell them?" You know, progress. But also, I think a lot of people really like Dick Grayson as a character. And there's been like a bunch of Robins at this point and I think people are really invested in those characters. Because the first Robin became Dick Grayson.
Well, the
second Robin became Red Hood. And people really like that character and that story. And then
you've got Teen Titans and Young Justice.
Of course, yeah, like they really blew up into popularity. And then, of course, Damian Wayne, who's really blown up since he was introduced, who's the current Robin, who's literally his son. Like, it's a whole fucking thing. So I really think a corner has been turned on with Robin, but I think this specific Batman would absolutely enlist a child to help him fight crime. I think he's crazy enough to do it, and I would like to see it. Not 10, right? But 14... Hell yeah, I could see him getting like a 13, 14-year-old kid and being like, let me show you what's up. I can see it. I want it. I'm looking at that sequel. Did you... I am sorry, I'm rambling so much. I really like Batman. Did you see that this was announced today? There's going to be a comic released starting in October called Riddler Year One, about year one for Riddler, in the Batman.
Paul Dano's Riddler. I did not see that.
Written by guess who?
Matt
Paul
Reeves?
Dano.
Damn.
Yeah, he's literally writing a comic about his specific version of the character called Year One for the Riddler.
What a disturbing performance, right?
He was so good. And again, horror directors, man, I love them. The introduction of the Riddler, terrifying.
Wasn't it?
Terrifying. So good. Again, I am a Batman purist, so I like the top hat cane and green
Riddle
suits.
me this.
Riddle me this, Batman.
The one in the Harley Quinn?
Yeah. Oh my god, I love Harley Quinn. Did you see that James Gunn is going to play himself in the new season of Harley Quinn.
Oh my god, no, I didn't see
That's
that.
so
No, I want it.
great.
I want it already.
Oh my god, that's another one where it's just like, fuck, I love that show. It's so good.
Yeah.
Um, but no, he was fantastic. The whole mystery of the film, right? Like him doing detective work. I love the sort of buddy cop shit between him and uh, Gordon,
Mhm.
Officer Gordon. And what I love, I didn't realize how much I loved it until I saw it a second time. The generic fucking cop one-liners they throw at each other. I love them so much. Where like they're like when he's saying like, "Oh, this whole place is a powder keg. It's about to blow." And he's like, "You'll never get to the DA." Like they like just like the little like cop lines they throw at each other. He's like, "You're telling me he's been moonlighting for the Penguin?" Like, and just the ease with which they throw, and that's another.
Coulson's dirty.
You're telling me he's dirty, you know? Like, yeah, it's just like little things.
By the way,
like that.
is that character like from the comics Gil Coulson?
Which one? The
one that Peter Sarsgaard, the DA in this movie,
shit.
that got blown up. Is he a character from the
I don't
comics?
think so.
Because okay, I can't be the only one thinking. So this guy is called Gail Coulson, Phil Coulson.
Different universes.
I know, but different universes that have long since copied each other.
Oh, you thought maybe
flat
there
out
was
rip
like
each other
a
off.
copy
Well, because it's just like it's so like
on the nose.
it just sounds almost exactly the same.
It does,
You know.
but I think he was just a creation for the film, just the dirty
Okay.
DA. No, it wasn't. I think he was the commissioner, wasn't he? Oh no,
he was
he
the DA.
The DA. The commissioner was the one that got.
The
eaten
commissioner
by
died well
the
before.
rats.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was really pushing it.
So they ate his face, or what did they eat? Because they never show what happened.
I think they like ate through his face or something like that.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
really bad.
Wow.
Yeah. If you see someone in a Batman story that's commissioner and his name isn't James Gordon or Jim Gordon, he's not long for this world, because it's all about freeing that spot to get him to get him to commissioner. All that stuff was great. The Penguin was great. I'm Ozzy. I don't know. Like, it's hard to talk about because so much of it, I'm just like, this is great. Catwoman, I think, was perfectly realized. I think that was like the
that was wow.
perfect Catwoman. Like, you got it. Like, yeah, like Catwoman and Batman, their relationship specifically comes from a sharing of this sort of pain that both of them have experienced in their life. But Catwoman is not well off, you know. There's a reason why she has her skills and she's a cat burglar and able to do what she does. And I don't know, it's just so well realized, specifically the romance between the two. I love it. I don't know what to say. The third act. Some people had an issue with the third act. I did not. I thought the third act was fantastic. And this is another thing. We were talking about like the humanity in those fucking Disney animated films. This is another film for as dark and as grimy and as relentlessly full of rain as the film is. It's maybe one of the most like hopeful superhero films I've seen in a long time, because it's about moving past that anger and that need for vengeance and trying to heal, and Batman learning that he needs to, his goal shouldn't be to just punish. His goal should be to create hope for the people of Gotham. And then, like, there's just good emotional moments, like when that moment between him and Alfred where he's like, you know, I thought I had conquered fear, but I basically, you know, when I thought you died, you know, that's the one thing I can't go through again, you know, that fear of losing someone I love. So despite like it's not grim dark, try hard.
No, not at all. And I think there are wonderful lines here that elicit much needed what was
Humor?
it? Breaks with humor.
For sure.
That were great and wonderful lines, and so much more funnier and memorable than fucking "Let's Scooby-Doo this crap."
Oh, I hate that shit so much. I didn't realize how much I really hated it until I saw the Batman. Because there's some great moments of humor throughout the film, but they're played, for the most part, pretty dryly. And it's not over the top. It's not like, this is the obvious joke. Like, with the MCU, it's getting to the point where it feels like they're going to include a laugh track. Like, this is where you laugh. like it's getting really... They need to stop.
I'm curious to see No Way Home again when I know right now it's available for like digital purchase, but when I get it in the mail, when I get my Blu-ray, and when I see it, I'm curious to see how certain moments will play without having an audience, because the audience kind of does act as the laugh track in some ways. So without that happening, I'm curious to see, because I think I did see on Twitter some of those moments when, you know, Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire are revealed. Like if they're played for the audience to react. So with the absence of it, I wonder if those moments will like fall by the wayside.
That's what's so crazy, because if you look at like standard like sitcom television, there's a lot of like moments where people pause or whatever, because they're making way for the audience to laugh or
but because the audience is actually there
and but like someone will say a joke and then like the audience erupts into laughter and the actors are like basically like waiting for them to stop laughing, and then they'll give a reply or they'll say something, and you see that all the time. As a sitcom connoisseur, I know it's something you have seen many times.
Oh please, yeah.
And if you notice, the MCU started doing that. They started including moments after what they assumed would be a big moment where the audience would clap or laugh, where it's like silence, where it's just sort of nothing happens. It's made for that, right? It's made for that opening weekend audience. But then, so I agree with you. It's going to be really interesting to go back, because from what I remember, there were a lot of moments in the film where it's like, this is clearly going to be a cheer moment. So we're just kind of like hold here and wait for when we think the cheering will die down, and then we'll keep going. I don't think that's smart to do. Well, I mean, who the fuck am I? That movie made so much fucking money. I should shut the fuck up.
$1.8 billion during one of the later surges of a global pandemic in the second year of a pandemic.
Yeah, fucking insane.
Like, it almost makes me wonder, like, if there wasn't a pandemic, would it already be the highest grossing movie of all time?
I mean, speaking of box office numbers, the Batman's been doing pretty good. It just passed 500.
Yeah, it's expected to hit $1 billion.
That's so good.
Which will make it the second movie since in the pandemic to make it $1 billion.
I'm happy about that. I am.
Which, by the way, when there wasn't a pandemic, you know what Batman movie didn't make $1 billion? Batman v Superman.
That's insane that they couldn't even hit
it stalled at 700 million.
That's so terrible. That.
You could tell there was a problem there with the quality.
And can I tell you something? If anything kills, I mean, it's dead already. But if anything has put the final nail in the coffin for the Snyderverse, it is the Batman making $1 billion. Because why would you look back?
And a long series of nails.
It's a long series of nails. But if there was any hope, the final one is the Batman making $1 billion. Because it's like, why would we go back to that other? This shit's working. Catwoman spinoff. What else can we
right
do?
now on HBO Max, they're developing 2 spin-off shows, an Arkham show and a Penguin show.
For sure.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, sorry. No, for sure they're moving in a different direction. But yeah, I kind of don't want to turn into a rambling mess. But
You talk as long as you want.
no, I won't say too much more. It's to me it is. I don't know if it's hard to say if it's like my favorite Batman film, because The Dark Knight, it's like a perfect. It's so good, right? And technically that is
absolutely it is, yes.
Right? Because I was rewatching it, and it really cemented. I'm like, oh, like this film's like a classic.
Oh yeah,
like there are so many moments and stuff where it's like yeah, this is a classic. Like a no different than any other film from like super well known from the 50s or 60s, 70s, 80s, that kind of stuff. So it's hard to say put up against The Dark Knight. And then of course I do have a very soft spot for Mask of the Phantasm. But I don't know if I have ever consistently loved like the package as far as a film goes as the Batman. Like as the character itself, it's just pitch perfect. I adore the world that they created. I adore the mystery and sort of the lesson and the journey that the Batman goes on. It's just fantastic. It's the kind of film that I want to get out of bed and go to the movies to see, right? Like,
yeah, it makes you love movies again. Again, it's a great time for movies. And I think it also is just validating for us to like have such faith with Matt Reeves when he was first hired on in the first place. He not only met, but I would say even exceeded expectations.
I think I shared this tweet with you a long time ago, but it was I think it was Loverboy Media had tweeted that like the reason why he said something along the lines of the reason why I'm so tough on modern blockbusters is because I grew up in the early 2000s era when this was the standard, and it was like the Pirates films, the Lord of the Rings, the Harry Potter films, and like Spider-Man, Sam Raimi. And it's like, yeah, man, like that era,
that's our era. That's where we come from, basically.
The best blockbuster. It took advantage of every medium available and just made some all like. That's when I was like, fuck, this is, as Marty says, cinema. But then, and
by the way, those films obviously are resonant to this very day, even though it's not talked about as much. But like I mentioned the story to you, like this week I was subbing for a class, and this is a raucous room of like 50 football players, and they were like jumping up and down with like voting for Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End as their movie to watch for the class period. It was hilarious. But also just like touching, because I love that movie.
Yeah, for sure.
I always have loved that film. And just reassuring to see this film, like all these years later, just be so beloved.
Gore Verbinski.
When it was ripped to shreds when it was released.
Yeah. A lot of films at that time that were ripped to shreds, to me, are so much better than 90% of the fucking blockbusters. And it's not nostalgia. It's not.
No.
Because, and to speak to that, Loverboy Media had a recent tweet, quote tweeting that one and saying like, never mind, this new decade has come out swinging with with pictures of the Batman and Dune. They're basically saying like, these are the kind of blockbusters I was talking about when I'm like, this is what I want. And it's true.
Both films, by the way, same cinematographer, Greg Fraser.
Yep.
He's about to win an Oscar for Dune.
He absolutely deserves it. Give him all the Oscars. But this cements my feeling.
Which matters, by the way. Again, cinematography matters very much so, and you see the effect in these movies. And by the way, we've also been on Film Twitter. A lot of the clips from No Way Home have been like getting out there again, and it reminds you of how, that movie. There were a lot of the movie looks
ugly.
Flat.
Well, flat to me is ugly. But
yeah.
Again, this film just cements this thing of like, I just have this is my standard for what I want. Because like
it should be the standard,
and I think it kind of used to be, right? And we can bring it back. Because as much, again, I very much had a good time with like you said, No Way Home, but it's like we should absolutely be calling out the flat, ugly cinematography, right?
Oh yeah, for as much as you liked it, as much as we liked it, this is us saying to the rest of you guys that love this film. For as much as you loved it, we're telling you there are many ways that film could have been so much better.
So much better.
And we're not even getting to like narrative or story or screenplay. That's the first place you start. But just like from a craft standpoint, so many different ways it could have been improved.
If you had this same exact film, but with the level of craft of a Dune or a The Batman or even those old Raimi films, I think I might love that film. I think
Absolutely,
I might love that version.
That goes a long way to earning some goodwill.
Of course.
I mean, that's what happened with me in Eternals.
Yeah.
One of the first olive branches is like, man, this movie looks so beautiful. Because guess what? They shot that in real places. They didn't shoot that in like a parking garage in Atlanta.
Film is a visual medium. Like, it's ridiculous to me that this idea that it's like, because I saw people like arguing about like No Way Home, and I get like it's silly to just keep arguing about the same film over and over. We saw it with The Last Jedi. It's like, like move on to new movies. It's fine. But the arguments that I was like, this is insane, or people going like, well, cinematography doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter everywhere.
I saw that.
And it's like, what?
What are you, an Oscar executive?
But to me, that's like saying like, I don't know, like, oh, the dialogue doesn't matter. The script doesn't matter. Like, what do you mean it doesn't matter? Like,
all that matters is the cameos. All that matters is the fan moments. This is why I'm just so up and done with Marvel stands, with Marvel fans. I'm sorry. I love Marvel movies too, but you know what? Not as much as you do anymore. Not because for a whole host of reasons. And I think to me that in and of itself once again encapsulates how many of these people do not care about the medium of filmmaking or storytelling. They're far more concerned with fanboying-gasms, and that's it.
But the thing is, imagine how much bigger that fanboy-gasm would be if the film was super visually interesting. You know? Like I don't know. That's a whole other thing. But I mean, we're over 3 hours. I'll bring it to an end. I very clearly love the Batman.
We're longer than Drive My Car.
Yes,
we're now longer than Drive My Car, which is a film you should all go see. We're gonna review it at some point on this show. But again, it just, you know what my mantra's been saying this last year on this podcast is for people, especially with that fervently defend the MCU. Watch more movies. Please, just watch different kinds of movies. My favorite movie of 2020 was an international film from Denmark.
And
I would hope that most of us would strive to see different kinds of films.
And
please.
You know what? This is the perfect guy to be the one telling you, okay? Because when we first started watching movies together, it was like pulling teeth to get him to watch anything that didn't have the Disney logo behind it. Like, it was...
You know what? That's true.
It was tough. So I was like, okay, well, what are some films I know he'll love, right? And then that's what I started sharing. I was like, I know you'll love this film. I know you'll love Pan's Labyrinth. I'll know you'll love this kind of shit. And then, of course, when you find something new, you love, like, oh my God, like, there's more of this out there? Well, let me keep looking, Yeah. So, like, I promise you, just broaden your horizons and you will find a million more things to love. And then also, when your favorite superhero film that you've been looking to your whole life to see ends up sucking, it won't be that bad, because there'll be other films that come out at that time that you'll love as well, right? So it's like, I didn't like Rise of Skywalker, but Knives Out kicked ass. So, I you know, happy life, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed myself tonight. A lot of wonderful commentary. It's nice to have you back on the show, and thank you all for listening. These next few weeks are going to be pretty big, so don't miss out under our spotlight here. Stay tuned every Sunday, a new episode. Catch you back next time. Bye.